Well, welcome everybody back to RCI TV for the first race of the 2021 calendar year. After a fantastic year of racing in 2020, we could not be happier to be back for the new year. Of course, got something a little special for y'all today. Got a little 3-race mini championship happening within one day. Of course, over here in Italy for the start of this at the Monza circuit. Michael Tauscher Racing in the 16 Mercedes. As we're watching him go around the track for the practice session. About 10 minutes to the first race. We'll be visiting Suzuka after Monza out in Japan, and then heading down to South Africa for the Kyalami circuit to wrap up this championship. 3 20-minute races, 10 minutes of qualifying each race. Should be one heck of an exciting run. Hello, everybody. My name is Mike Jones, bringing you the action here today, alongside Mr. Stewie, bringing you all the cameras. And who else would be here for an RCI stream other than Mr. George Smith? And George, it has been a little while since we have done any casting together, but I cannot be more excited for this. So I was going to say race, this little mini series. I've been excited for this one for a while.
Good day to you, Mike, and yeah, big warm welcome to all the viewers. Good to be back for another year of casting and broadcasting for Racing Club International 2021. May it be good to everybody, including our drivers and our very special viewers, of course. So yeah, Mike, looking forward to this one. Haven't really been watching too much racing in the break, and kind of excited to get back into things, really.
Yeah, me either. We have our other stream running. If you guys follow the RCI TV YouTube channel, probably knows there's 2 streams running at the moment. In fact, a little bit of a different stream going on that other one. Jesse Lee and Nick Setnick are bringing you sorry about that, guys. We had a little bit of hiccup with our broadcaster. George, I am back live, though, just setting my screen up, if you want to talk here for a second.
I don't mind taking over for you for a little bit. I need your POV of what you're seeing as well for me to continue on as well. But yeah, free practice going to come to an end pretty shortly. I mean, 7 minutes to go before we go live with the qualifying session, and currently we've got 15 cars on the grid, so we were hoping for a couple more. Of course, one of those cars belongs to you itself, so that doesn't really count. So I mean, it should be some close racing. I mean, the names that we do have here: Tauscher, Pride, Mariety, Spears, Ryan Meenan, Prendergast, the other Ryan Meenan as well. So the 2 Ryan Meenan brothers coming to fight it out. It's gonna be good to see what the guys have to offer. Michael Tauscher currently top in free practice. Not always the indicator that we look for, but certainly something that we just use as a bit of a reference point going into things to make sure that we kind of just see where their times are sitting at. 1:47.355 for free practice, Mike. So certainly starting to bring some heat. I'm looking forward to seeing what they actually drop down to in the quali sessions.
I am too, George. I wouldn't be surprised to see these guys dropping into the 46s in qualifying. It is, a little chilly out on the track, only 14C with the actual track temperature. A couple of the guys obviously in the pits. That was Cody Pride in P2. He's only about a 10th behind Tauscher there. And here's Harry Spears, one of the faster guys that we see driving around here in RCI for the Fordzilla team. Spears is even 2/10 off of Tauscher. So Tauscher, I think, in that Mercedes is got either he's put down some hot laps and he's tested for qualifying, or he's just got a good lap in, maybe with a little slipstream action going on. I kind of wouldn't be surprised to see these Mercs and the BMW, for that matter, do their best here at Monza, to say the least, right? I mean, at the very minimum. It's only a 20-minute race. These guys don't have to run a lot of fuel, right? So in comparison, we're used to, say, running a 60-minute race most of the time, right, George? So, you know, without having much fuel in there, those Mercs can run on their highest fuel map. And especially here at Monza, they're going to do pretty good. But as we lead into the next two races, the Mercs are pretty reasonable at Suzuka. And we do have a lot of Mercs on the grid, but the Ferraris should do, you know, a lot better at Suzuka and Kyalami in comparison here at Monza, I would say.
Yeah, I don't disagree with what you're saying there. I think the Mercedes and the BMW really need to capitalize on what they can do here at Monza. I haven't had a lot of experience with sort of the new Evo Mercedes in terms of getting to see it race a lot. And in terms of me driving it, I've been able to get some off-peak season driving time in it and quite enjoying it. So, I mean, the fact that there are going to be a little bit of a mixture on the grid of, you know, the manufacturers here. Sad to see that, you know, there's no Porsche options in the running so far. Maybe, you know, later on when some more drivers hopefully join up, we might see some more car offerings, but at the moment, I mean, it's a very dominant thing. You can see those Ferraris also starting to get themselves up towards the front of the order in practice, starting to find some temperature, some grip as the morning kind of wears on. The sun starts to come up, temperatures are going to get up, and well, as you can see, big tank slapper coming out from that black Mercedes as Cormac Ryan Meenan goes through Les Mode 2, and both drivers managed to get through that unscathed at this point. Mike, it's going to be a good race. I'm very excited to see. And like I said, for the 2021 year, it's going to be a goodie. I think racing-wise, sim racing-wise, looking forward to what's coming. I think the Mercedes here going to be interesting to see just how it uses these Ascari curves during the race and qualifying. I mean, we saw a lot during the Monza series. I think Imola coming out in the DLC. The Mercedes there, very popular car pick coming out, and maybe here being able to use some top end as well as really being able to murder through Ascari. Gonna make it all count. You see Tasha still up at the top. Spears closing down. Cormac Ryan Meenan still will sit just down in 8th place. I mean, 1st to 8th place, 0.6 of a second between them. So, I mean, it's really anybody's game. And when it comes down to quali, you might make a mistake, and there goes your lap time.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't take much to throw off a little bit of a lap time here at Monza, and especially when, you know, you get drivers that are this close in pace even. Of course, we only have 14 drivers on the grid in total, as you know, the last car would be me in the server. But you know, we had 26 signups for this event. It's a little disappointing to see not all the drivers here, but for these 20-minute races, you know, the smaller grid is pretty nice. Hopefully, we won't see too much carnage with the smaller races in comparison to, say, you know, a 40 to 50 man grid for a 20-minute race. Only 2 minutes or so left on the free practice session before we get into our first qualifying event as well, George. And I think that that's probably going to be the most telling thing. You know, in these 20-minute races, qualifying is legitimately important, even with the small grids. Usually we're used to seeing, you know, the qualifying matter, don't take me wrong, but never be quite as important as it will be for these quick races like this. This is almost you know, like open lobby style of races. Hopefully not by driving standard, but by, you know, duration. I mean, we're used to the longer races. Of course, our endurance championship starting in a couple weeks. 3 hours of Silverstone would be the first one there. You know, qualifying, it matters, but for a 20-minute race, it's really gonna make a lot of a difference. I'm really curious to see if these Ferraris that are struggling a bit here in the practice session can make up any time once they get into the qualifying session. I don't think they will, George Smith. But hey, you know, I'm here to be proved wrong. Prendergast and Daniel Jose Georges are quick drivers that I recognize. I don't recognize Moriarty offhand down in P7, Sean Moriarty. But Prendergast and Jose Georges, quick drivers. Would not be surprised to see these guys doing pretty well, as I think these guys are wrapping up their final lap for the practice session. Coming soon, George.
it's now time to just load up that quali setup. You've got it as light as possible. You've kind of got a feel for what the track feels like in these conditions. At the moment, looks like Tauscher in that older Mercedes. I mean, he's still up at the top. Spears in the newer model, the 2019 Evo, I believe. Right. I mean, I'm not 100%
2020.
sure. 2020.
It's a 20. Yeah, the Ferrari and the Merc are both 2020 Evos.
Okay, so the older style here rolling into the pits of Michael Tauscher, just showing that it's still got the legs, and it'll be interesting to see if he brings the same pace over to quali. I mean, that's what the important thing is to do. Don't burn yourself out in free practice. Make sure you can get your best lap in. Harry Spears, of course, a very dominant driver from Fordzilla, and I mean, I've seen him drive many, many times before. Tauscher the same, and of course Pride, not a driver I'm too familiar with. The two Ryan Meenan brothers in 4th and 5th during practice. I mean, they're drivers that we've had during the series for forever, for yonks, and good to see some new names as well. Vane, Moriarty, like you said. I think Luz, a pretty new name for me. Bertelsen as well, a driver I haven't seen before, so plenty of new names. And Magazi driving that Audi, the lone Audi in the number 34. Qualifying going to start itself up, and we're about to go live for the first of our 3 races. So, of course, Monza going to be the start, Suzuka to follow, and then over to Kyalami. So 10 minutes of qualifying before they then go into a 20-minute race. And we go over to the next session, and it's pretty much a 3-round mini championship all in one night. So they do an hour's racing, but broken up into 3 different races, 3 different tracks. So that's going to be exciting.
Yeah, it's definitely exciting. When I kind of had the idea for this, I was pretty excited about it. I mean, it's kind of cool to do a championship in general, right? I mean, I'm always a huge fan of casting for a championship, and then being able to drop a one-day championship on top of it is really fun. So I'm hoping that this will be one. Ooh, Pride! There he is on his out lap. Gonna go ahead and spin out. Manages to stay in the middle of the track enough that the guys can get by him. But there's the pressure right there already. He comes.
You can't push too hard on those out laps. You got to get the tires up to temperature. And with the tire model here, very unforgiving. Lesmo 1-2, a corner that can catch you off guard at the best of times, and they're going to prove just that. Harry Spears then going to prove to be on board for the duration of this outlap as he makes his way down the back straight on the way down to the Parabolica. He's got some pressure from behind from drivers, but it's enough space for him to keep his head down, get this next lap nailed in, and you always want to get a good banker in. You've only got 8 minutes. Look at that on the clock. So you've done your outlap. Now you've got to go and set your first essential timed lap. And Harry Spears is going to have that pressure on his shoulders. He goes down the start-finish straight, makes his way down to that infamous turn 1.
Yeah, coming through the first chicane here, using the curb nicely, not hitting it too hard, throwing himself sideways. Off the curb there. We'll see if he can keep up some speed coming back. Of course, he's got the Ferrari of Prendergast that is out behind him. And you can see if we look back the wing here, how much distance he just put on, even since the first corner. Hard on the brakes going through chicane number 2 here. We'll see if he can get the power down nice and early. Very neat and tidy. And you can see that Ferrari still back there in the background. Looks like the Ferrari actually picked up just a touch of time there, if I'm not mistaken, George, through this sector.
Smooth.
Not quite as not quite as surprising though, because this is probably the sector where the Merc is going to do the worst on the track. But here's the straightaways, and this is where the Merc's going to take off.
Yeah, this is the important part, carrying the speed out through the Lesmo sectors, and it's smooth as fast through here. It's all about carrying momentum into Ascari, using a lot of curb. Unsettling the car a lot as Harry Spears has to recover slightly through there. That compromises the amount of throttle he can carry through the mid part of Ascari. The exit was then planted, but now back down the back stretch and into Parabolic. It doesn't want to break too late, not too early. Onto the anchors he goes. Again, just trying to keep the nose pointed towards that inside apex, then look for a wide exit. And here you see using all the racetrack available. Spears for Fadzilla in the 285. Over the line he goes. 147.7 with Killian, sorry, that's Cormac Ryan Meenan. Gonna go 1/10 slower behind him with a 147.9. But a very nice clean lap then for Harry Spears. Keep an eye out for Tauscher. He hasn't yet set a time, but the times reign in here, Mike Jones.
There it is. Speaking of Tauscher, there it is, George. Almost 6/10 quicker for that number 16 Mercedes. Drops down the gauntlet and says, hey, boys, we ain't here to play today. 5.5 minutes left in this qualifying. Plenty of time to get down here and throw down more laps. Currently looking at Spears, or Spears on my timing board. He is not that far up. The problem for him is Tauscher is up. He's up 0.16 seconds so far. That's going to put him pretty close to that 46 marker. However, Vane here is up about 0.5, but he's back a second off of his first lap. So we are seeing the Merc 1, 2, 3 at the moment. Prendergast, you know, he's flirting with Cormac Ryan being there on the board, but not quite on the time and track. Looks like he's going to have to go back to the pit lane, in fact. But Tauscher is still out here doing the laps. George, as I lose my timing tool briefly, I'm going to have to relaunch that. But it looks like Tauscher's going to go back to the pit lane, and we're going to see if Spears can pick that back up.
Yeah, Spears going to chase down Johan Vane here in that AJM Racing team number 259 Mercedes. Going to attack Ascari, and he's looking good here to improve his lap time. Previously a 148.273 on the board. He wants to dip into the 147s, and currently 3/10 up as he makes his way down the back stretch. So this is potentially that lap that he needs. He's going to break into that less than a second gap to the likes of Michael Tauscher in pole position. With 4 minutes on the clock, into the Parabolic he goes and exits, as he then will go over the line. Johan Vane, does he improve his lap time? I don't think he does. Oh, he does, a 148.1. So I cursed it a little bit, just outside the 147s, and will then settle, as you see in front of him. Look at the likes of Cody Pride, a driver I said I wasn't familiar with. He is in one of the lone BMWs, and we've seen just how powerful that M6 can be. The number 1, currently 5 or half a second behind Tauscher. Daniel Jose Georges in the 777, 1.1 seconds off the pace. Will go over the line to try and better his lap time. They've got 3 minutes on the clock left to do something in this pretty much a quick little qualifying shootout. I mean, at this point in time, you're trying to get as close to the front of the order as you can. Try and have a good start to the race, and then just attack from the very go. 20 minutes is not a lot of time to make up for, you know, sort of lost spaces. It's important that you capitalize early on, put the pressure on, and make sure that at a track like Monza, you're not letting the driver in front get away from you.
Yeah, you can't let them get too far ahead, as we will be back to pictures here in just a couple moments. But George, the qualifying here, I mean, like we talked about, it's going to be so important for these 20-minute races. Even with only about 15 people on the grid, it's going to be very, very important to put down a lap. And, of course, the Mercedes seems to be doing the work so far here at Monza. Not quite surprising, of course, as we mentioned earlier. But at the very minimum, you know, it will be something to be interesting to keep an eye on and see if these Ferraris can pick up any time once we get out into the race session. Of course, anything can happen during a race session. It is not limited to whatever is whatever your speed is. It's just going to be, you know, who can keep it on the track. And, you know, even a Ferrari at Monza can defend against a Mercedes if they are careful. Moriarty did put down a P3 lap. He's got that podium position so far on the grid for the qualifying session. Tauscher may have just went a little wide there. In fact, he was a few more tenths up George Smith, but I'm worried that he may have just invalidated that lap.
A little bit wide. You got to be careful of the track limits here for sure. It's a very old school racing circuit. You got to nail your lap from the start to the very end. You are given a very small margin for error, and the drivers here all putting it to the line. Less than a second separates first to ninth, so it's going to be a mad dash when we get over to the race, and that happens in less than a minute, or just as I'm saying that, a minute's time, give or take. We'll go over to the start of the grid formation. Drivers will be able to load up those setups, and I think that's pretty critical here, is making sure that that fuel balance is going to be optimal. You're going to be up against drivers that are, again, going to be calculating all those minor nuances all the time. And for yourself, you want to make sure that you can get yourself the best advantage out there. And saying that, hopefully not underfuel the car. Running out of fuel, the worst blooper you can make. I say that having made it more than once myself. So when you look out towards this, Tauscher will stay out. He'll get another lap in here. This will be his final lap to attack. 147.1 will be his new fastest personal best. He set that on that last lap, so really getting the most out of the grip as things heat up. Harry Spears still to chase down, and can he find the time that he needs? Right now, 147.3, so he's 2 tenths or less than 2 tenths off the pace. 0.186 seconds separates them, and then they've got Killian Ryan Meenan right behind them as well. So I mean, that front row is looking daunting, Mike.
It is. I mean, so I was watching Spears on his last lap. I had swapped the camera to him just after he crossed the line. Looks like he invalidated his last lap, but he was within reach of Tauscher. He was about 0.16 seconds up, which is going to be, close enough to potentially take that position. However, looking at the lap times, Tauscher is coming through into parabolic, and now he is a tenth and change up. That's going to put him pretty close to that 46 that I was predicting. We're going to see if he's able to do it. It looks like Spears had to not abandon his lap, but is not picking up any time. Cormac Ryan Meenan ahead of these guys was able to put down a little bit more time, but there is Tauscher putting down an even slightly faster lap, at least a 47.118. Spears not quite bringing it home so far. About a tenth up. He may steal P2 back from Cormac Ryan Meenan, but I don't think he's going to get Tauscher.
This is going to be close just for P2. I mean, Tauscher, yes. But again, then it's just the dive way down to the start of what could be chaos into turn one. So you want to get as close as you can, staying away from the second row. That's what Harry Spears is chasing down. Will he get it?
There he goes.
He does. Over the line, second place, starts up front. And I mean, what a dominant Mercedes lineup it is. First to fourth place, all the Mercedes boys lining up. And then joining them from Germany as well, we've got that lone Mercedes of the likes of Cody Pride. Kieran Prendergast will start in sixth. Sean Moriarty in seventh. Daniel Jose Georges in eighth. Ninth for Johan Vane and Carden Liu then in 10th place. So the top 10 being rounded out. Only 15 cars here, Mike. I mean, including yourself, who doesn't count. So 14 cars, really, going racing today. A little bit sad, I think, considering the sign-ups looked a little bit bigger. But, the evening is young, and the racing here, with the timing splits between the drivers, looking like it's not really going to matter how many cars we've got. 20 minutes. It's a shootout.
And that's basically what it is, right? I mean, we had limited these grids to 25 to 30 to begin with. Obviously it's a little disappointing to see near enough half the drivers not showing up for the race. Me and one of the other admins and commentators, of course, that everybody will recognize, Ryan Gill, been talking a lot about this and how we can help alleviate that over the next year. As it's something all communities have been struggling with recently. But, either way, 14 cars in a 20-minute race, especially with the quality of drivers that we have, in this split for anything, Should be one heck of a shootout, as you put it, George. It's more of a shootout than a race. These 20-minute races are. So I'm excited for it. 14C out on the track. Track will not start with the optimum grip. We're going to start within that fast grip. Be curious to see how fast it gets up to that optimum. But it does mean that these cars will not, quite be able to get the power down quite as easily coming out of the chicanes. We often see the Mercedes struggle just a touch coming out of chicane 2. So realistically, if the Ferraris, they didn't qualify as well as the Mercs, we expected that here at Monza. But if they can get out ahead of the Mercedes through the mid sector of this track, we should be able to see them hopefully make some passes and maybe get out ahead of these Mercedes, and we will take it from there and see if we can at least see a Ferrari on the podium for the final here. But Tauscher, Spears, and the two Ryan Meenan brothers will take up our two front rows in those Mercedes. 2.5 minutes to grid time here, and we will take a look and see what happens. I don't know, George. I don't know what's going to happen. I think it's going to be wild regardless.
I mean, this start of this race is important. The qualifying, we talked about it. It's important getting yourself up towards the front, then making sure that what you've got is then used to your full advantage going into the race. I mean, that short sprint time, it's not much, especially at a track like Monza. I think Suzuka is going to be a little bit different, which we head out to in the second part to this race, the second part to the trilogy of the story. And, I mean, Suzuka a little bit more overtakey, and this time around, I think it's all going to be about pressure being on the defense. I think coming out from Tauscher and Spears, I think that's going to be interesting. I love seeing a little brotherly rivalry on circuit, the Ryan Meenan brothers. That's certainly going to be spicy, but very interesting BOP-wise to just see that dominance from the Mercedes up front. The Ferraris all kind of slotting into the same sort of area. So Prendergast, Mariah, I can't say this name. It's honestly getting me every single time.
It's Moriarty.
Moriarty.
Yeah,
Moriarty.
think Sherlock.
Moriarty. Okay, cool. I got you. So Moriarty and of course George's.
I just realized. I think that's the first time I ever had to coach you on how to say a name. What is happening?
Probably not the first time. It's new year, new me. I've actually got some big news coming up pretty soon. So looking forward to a lot of things. Hopefully you're gonna coach me throughout the rest of the year. Lots of casting events coming down. 40 seconds for the drivers. Now the nerves starting to build up for sure. I mean, for myself, that's always the part that you get a little bit nervous for. And right now, 30 seconds. We get the notice coming out from our race director, Mike Jones. Are we playing a prediction game here today? Are we going to pick some drivers? I mean, I don't have any Porsches to choose from, so I also maybe refuse to back Mercedes. So I don't actually really want to play this game, looking at the front of the grid.
No Porsches on the grid. Yeah, there's a lot of Mercs out on the grid today. Unfortunately, we will have to wait just a moment so we can get into drive view. Sorry about that. For some reason, the game is disagreeing with me today.
You can escape and drive it. You can just escape and hit drive.
There we go.
Now we see them starting to peel off.
Yeah, I'm stuck as a driver at the moment. The game's not agreeing with me today, but here they are, going out for their formation lap. Here's Tauscher leading them out. We can see Spears out behind him. The Ryan Meenan brothers out behind them. If we take a look through Ryan Meenan's dashboard here, that's Cormac out in front. You can see Spears there, and you get a flash of Tauscher coming across chicane 1 as Killian toys with his brother Cormac here. Of course, ghosted on the formation lap to make sure no incidents happening as these guys warm up the tires, warm up the brakes. Not a lot of time to get that warm up in only a 20-minute race, George Smith. So, it's
gonna be
very important to happen right here.
It's going to be crazy. I mean, Monza infamous online for one of those lobbies that if you kind of load yourself into, you're always nervous of turn. In the pro split, they know that there's a lot of pressure on them to perform. First race of the year, first broadcasted race that we doing here at Racing Club International. So good to have everybody with us. Good to be here, of course, with you, Mike Jones, and Stewie in spirit. He, of course, always good to do broadcasting alongside the crew. So cannot forget anybody on this adventure. And right now, I think the drivers all preparing themselves for what is going to be a mad dash. So you can't afford to let anybody get away and rely on pit. There's no mandatory pit stops. There's absolutely nothing. If you damage your car, it's race over. Very similar out to the G2 esports series that I got to do, where we did have a 20-minute race format here at Monza. I mean, they had a mandatory stop, so that's completely different here. This is just flat out sprint. And the fact that we've got 3 races in a little 3-part mini series, a little trilogy story. What a great story to behold as they make their way out to Lesmo number 2 and just trying to get as much warmth in. And you know what they say, that pseudo tire weaving in the game, not as effective as what they do in real life, but it looks really cool on a broadcast. And if one car starts to weave, other cars start to weave. It's like yawning, Mike Jones. One person goes, then everybody weaves, some lights flashing. Guys are getting ready. Michael Tauscher in that number 16, ready to lead us away into 2021. And, Monza, what an iconic place to start us away. Mercedes dominance up front. Can Pride bring some BMW pride out here and split up the nasty Mercedes front row? The Ferraris also trying to enter in 2 by 2. They are starting to go, Mike Jones. 20 minutes of racing ahead of us.
20 minutes of racing, indeed. Of course, Darren Pride cheering on his brother, son, dad, various forms of family members, perhaps. Gives the shout out to Cody. Wants that BMW victory himself. As these guys stack up, we can see 14 cars lining up for this 20-minute race. And Tauscher, of course, leading them back in this glossy black. Number 16, Tauscher Racing, Mercedes, as he tries to warm the brakes at the very last second. Make sure that he's got them things nice and toasty going into turn 1. It's going to be so important to have those brakes ready to go at the green flag here, George Smith. For Mercedes at the front of the grid. We got the BMW following behind, and then a trio of Ferraris leading back our top 8 as we are going to go green for the first race in this series.
Lights just waiting to go, and there we are. We are live for the first race here at Racing Club International. Head-to-head, Spears versus Tauscher. Off the line, a good race start for Spears. He is going to go and almost get a nose next to Tauscher. He will. They're going to go. Who's going to break first? Inside line for Tauscher down into turn 1. He will have the inside line. Look, someone have to something to go over the escape road as well. It needs to be careful of where he joins. The rest of the pack, very clean turn 1. Spears, though, gets out navigated by Michael Tauscher. Now has to defend against the Ryan Meenans. And of course, behind them, it looks like maybe it was Pride that didn't have the greatest of starts. He's now having a bit of. Oh, was it the Meenans?
It was Ryan Meenan, or Cormac Ryan Meenan.
You're
Sorry,
right,
got
Pride.
back to the back. Yeah, Pride actually back up to P4.
Yeah, Pride had a nice start coming out there. So a good start coming out. Prendergast followed him through there. And it is Cormac that then struggled in at that number 12. But race start underway. Michael Tauscher not leaving anything to chance. He needs to get away from Spears as quick as possible. And he needs the rest of the pack to hang on to P2 to give him as much room as possible. He needs to make sure he keeps Spears out of the slip down into Scari, into that heavy braking zone, but still trying to carry the momentum down the back straight. Tauscher looking so planted. Spears looking planted as well, but not quite as quick through that section. And you'll see that it's going to be Ryan Meenan behind, chasing down Spears. That's looking likely to put most pressure here in this little trio up front.
Yeah, and it is basically a little trio up front at this point. Pride did drop back about 3/4 of a second. Of course, Prendergast all over the back of him as they come out of Parabolica for the first time, crossing the line. Lap number 1 in the books for the Welcome to 2021 mini series here at RCI. Tauscher leads them on to lap 2. Spears in second. Ryan Meenan in third. Pride in fourth. Prendergast and Cormac Ryan Meenan rounding out the first 3 rows. Not a whole lot of drama going on throughout. The 241 car of parts did drop off a little bit. I believe there was a touch of an incident there with him possibly, but the rest of these guys all pretty much stacked up nose to tail for the most part as they're making their way into chicane number 2. Here is Kieran Prendergast with the BP Racing 10 Ferrari, our leading mid-engine car so far for this race, and he's keeping up pretty well there so far, George Smith. I'm happy to see this. Cormac Ryan Mean not able to get over the back of him. You know, Cormac, of course, he had to use the escape road coming into T1 for the first lap. Lost a few positions because of that, but it looks like he is not losing too much time overall. However, the top 7 here down to George's.
Spears is losing time out through Lesmo too. This is going to allow Prendergast to also keep himself up towards the back of Pride. Pride then on the back of Killian. And all following this man in that 285 for Ford Zilla. And he needs to be careful. Small mistakes like that is going to allow that slipstream effect from behind. And in these big, long straightaways that you get at Monza, that is a big advantage that you get. And here you see a move maybe being made. Round the outside goes Killian Ryan Mean and needs to try and hold out, needs to be careful of that inside line, maybe being given up to Pride. Pride, seeing this, needs to tuck in and will do so. So Harry Spears sees the attack coming through, defends immediately on that inside line out to Parabolica, and is going to give himself some advantage. But Pride here, he does have the big, beefy BMW M6. And again, side by side, they're going to go. Will Killian be able to set him up for the exit? And late on the brakes going through there is Harry Spears. This is going to bunch them all back up. Look at the, in the background. Like you said, in that mirror, Prendergast, I think almost rear ending. He's going to then be under pressure from the likes of Cormac. Cormac going to be trying to go around the outside here as they make their way down to chicane number 2. So we promised action-packed racing, and this is exactly what we're getting here. A little dive and a fight between the Ferraris coming down. That's George's in the 777. He's also made up some good time in the fights happening in front of him, and that's what it's all about. Keep your head down, get your best laps in, and wait for the drivers in front to try and make a way around. And like you see, I mean, getting forced to go around the outside, even if you've got the slipstream, you've got the pace, makes you have to eat a little bit of humble pie and realize just how hard it is to pass here. And you make mistakes like that, the cars behind you, they're benefiting every single time.
Yeah, and it's really easy to make mistakes here, especially when you're pushing as hard as you will be in these 20-minute races. Only 15 to go, in fact, so far. We've already had 5 minutes of racing here in Italy for the first race of this 3-race series. And these guys, you know, Tauscher has kind of checked out a little bit, but P2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 all stacked up there, all on screen right there, coming into that final corner. The Ferraris still holding down P6, P7, but, you know, again, we saw, you know, Spears struggle a little bit in comparison to Tauscher, you know, through Sector 2 on the first 2 laps. I'm curious to see, you know, if they do keep that up, can the Ferraris put down a little bit of speed and get back up there? You know, we did see Cormac Ryan Mean come past Prendergast, but
I think good.
Ooh.
I think a little touch coming in there,
touch.
And Prendergast's going to be in a difficult part of the racetrack. He's going to now, he's going to be in that dirty grass sector where it's very hard to turn around. But this is the pressure that I was talking about. Killian Ryan Meenan is going to continue to try to get past Spears, and the likes of Cody Pride, he's just holding on, waiting to see if that opportunity opens up. The side max motor walks late on the brake, tucks back in. But the pressure on from the number 1 of BMW is going to be a little bit of concern for Killian. He can't go for those, round the outside moves and leave the inside line open, because that will be snapped up by that M6. And it looks so beastly there, like kind of a strange, ominous Batmobile coming into the mixture of the Mercedes pack here. Into 4th place for Pride. Harry Spears on board here. He's got a nice exit through on the exit of Lesmo. And down the back stretch here before Ascari.
Look at how good Killian is on the brakes.
And that Side Max Motorsports car looks so beautiful. And what a team that team is going to be here in 2021. I mean, they've been putting a lot of social media time and effort in. And, they've got some incredible drivers in their lineup. So I'm incredibly excited to see what SideMax brings for 2021. And for them, a good result here. Certainly going to go in the good books for Racing Club International. Welcome back to 2021. An app name for, of course, the first race of the year here at Racing Club International. Ryan Meenan, that number 23, chases down Harry Spears. And they just all cost themselves that time to Michael Tauscher, who's running away in that number 16 Mercedes. But the three here, we'll call it almost four, as the likes of Cormac starts
Cormac
to also...
is back.
Cormac is back. I like that.
He's not going to let these guys get away. We know that Cormac and Killian will get very competitive with each other. Of course, Cormac, he doesn't have quite as much time as his brother does to put in the seat of the car. He does occasionally drive with the SideMax Motorworks car and team, but not quite as much time for him. Of course, he's I believe a MotoGP photographer, if I'm not mistaken, so he stays pretty busy, even during the pandemic times that we're in. But he's over there right on the back of Pride, and he's got plenty of time to make a move still. I mean, at Monza, it's really, not too difficult to pass here. Again, we've been talking about small mistakes that these guys can make. We see small mistake happen, and these drivers will pounce. These are pro esports level drivers that you're watching at the moment. So a little small mistake that, those of us like me, like George, might make on a corner-to-corner basis, are not something these guys do often, and when it happens, it will cost them significantly. But so far, nose to tail, all the way down here this lap, nothing quite exciting going on with this one. No mistakes so far. It's just a question of when it's going to happen, though, George. I don't think if. I think it's a when. These guys are under immense pressure in a 20-minute race to get these podium positions, and Pride with that BMW is not going to want to see three Mercs on the podium.
Moriarty is also down just within that top 10, chasing down on Magazzi in that number 34 Audi. I mean, these two are also pretty getting closer and closer. Half a second now between them was 9/10 before that last timing splits update. So the number 2 here, Sean, doing a good job at putting some pressure on, trying to get as many points as possible. And of course, in a 3-part racing series, we've seen this in these kind of events. It's all about consistency. You can't just show up for race 1 and not perform in race 2 and 3. It's all about consistency, consistent finishes, and consistent points. So every position counts, and I guess the number 2 Ferrari going to have that in the back of his mind, wants to get past that lone Audi. And I'm sad to see the manufacturer lineup here being so dominant towards, but I guess that's what you can kind of expect out of DLC packages, is drivers enjoying the new content, enjoying what's come out, and enjoying what is quite a good, well-balanced car that's come out from Kunos. So still good to see Tauscher dominating in what is the old series Mercedes up at the front. Cody Pride here in the lone corner. They are indeed side by side. It is going to be Pride versus Killian. Killian going to secure the inside line, and that's going to force Pride again to go wide, and that opens up opportunity for Cormac in that white Mercedes behind. But look at this M6 on the straightaways. It's got the legs, and he's going for the inside line here. He's decided that he's going to overtake on this part, so he's going to set himself up for the inside on the end. Oh, he's run out of track, actually. Yeah. Gone onto the dirt, and that's going to allow Cormac past. Can Cormac get past? Going to put himself on the inside for the exit out through turn 1. I think that Cormac has got this done, and he has indeed. Gets onto the loud pedal, and what a brilliant pass coming out there. Cody going to be kicking himself just a little bit. Tried to see what he could capitalize on, and that's what it's about in these sprint races. If you don't try, you don't get. But that M6 is not out of this. He's still got what is a very, very powerful car here at Monza, and can still get past the number 12 here of Cormac Ryan Meenan. But that was a nice pass. Made sure that he put himself onto the inside for the exit. And when you're going side by side, that is so important. Thinking about the exit ahead of the corner.
Yeah, I mean that's the problem that Cody Pride just had though. He wasn't thinking about the entry into the corner. He just wanted that inside line. But the problem is that, like you said, George, he ran out of track as they started approaching the corner. That cost him in that case, and that's really what it is. We go back to that. Small mistakes can mean a lot in races like this with drivers as good as this, and that small mistake did cost him a position as he was trying to make one up himself. This is back to Sean Moriarty here back in P9. Prendergast, who was dropped down to P10 after the small incident in T1 a few laps ago. This is he's trying to catch up and get back at least into that top 8. Moriarty and Megazi going to go side by side coming into Curva Parabolica. The Ferrari on the outside, and it looks like the Audi is just going to let him have it. He broke a little early. Moriarty makes up the position up into P8, and Prendergast is going to come drag race out of the back side of this corner as well. We do know that Prendergast, he's probably a little bit quicker than he would be, than these guys out on track that he's fighting with at the moment. But that's just because he's been knocked back. Would not be surprised to see within a lap or two him making his way up. And there it is right there. Pushes the Audi wide. Dives into T1. Hard on the hammer. Oh, and the little bit of a tap there again. That is Prendergast's second tap. This one on the sending end of it rather than the receiving end. Spinning Moriarty around, and Megazi going to make up the position. Prendergast, George, not having the best race here, or at least the best turn one. To say the least. That's 2 incidents for him. Unfortunate for him. Probably going to finish P10 now after that, if I'm not mistaken.
Head a little bit maybe full of some steam and making some mistakes. It's certainly difficult, and you're putting pressure on, you're feeling pressure both at the same time. It's an ebb and flow, the give and take, and unfortunately sometimes doesn't quite work out. And turn 1, not going to always be chaos during lap 1, but as we go later on into this race, the pressure continues and the fight's out on track between all the drivers here, all wanting to get some precious points. It looks like Vane sitting in the pits in that 259, so that's unfortunate for him. Laps down, won't be getting that consistency that we talked about. But these drivers here, I mean, they haven't been able to work together. That means that the leader being able to run away up at the front, leaving these guys to just have a little bit of a gentleman's race between each other. Spears maybe settling down a little bit more, but it is the battle between the old school, new school. Killian rocking that old school Mercedes, the Evo of Spears in front. You can just see the difference in the grille design between them.
Killian's going to go for it here, though, George.
He's going to have the inside.
Oh,
he's going to have the inside through this. The little tap is going to still resettle him. Is Spears very happy with that? I don't think so, in terms of position coming through, but Killian does get through. I don't think it was anything intentional. It was, of course, just pushing the limits coming down. But just like I was saying, look at the difference in those styles of grill. The new car of Spears being attacked out by the brothers in the old Mercedes. And right now it's a old Mercedes 1-2 with Spears in the new Evo, and then Cormac rocking out in the old one there as well. So a good mixture of what's still a good car here at Monza to be picked up if you guys are looking to run out a 20-minute sprint race. And Lesmo too, that's getting ever so slippery and pushing it to the limits. You don't want to touch the grass on the exit there.
No, you don't want to touch the grass. It will throw you, even in this Mercedes. It's got good grip. The track did switch over to optimum grip at some point during the last 10 minutes or so. 16 minutes into this race, Killian Ryan Meenan up into P2 after a little bit of a tippy-tappy move coming into T1, getting around Spears. Something I've noticed, by the way, George, P6 and P7, while they did drop off just a bit, they are relatively keeping pace with these guys for the most part, with all the battles going on. I don't think that they're going to have enough time to catch, as we've got about 3 laps remaining as they cross the line starting lap 9. Of course, Tauscher almost 8 seconds up. He's been able to just check out and pretty much drive his own race. The thing with these 20-minute races as well, you can see based on the track map there on the right, there's no traffic for him to deal with. So he's just pretty much out here getting consistent, throwing down the laps, letting these guys behind him fight. and, just taking off. He's going to want the points, though. As me and George talked about earlier, it's something that, at Suzuka and at Kyalami, which is our next 2 races, these Mercedes aren't going to have quite as easy of a time as they do here at Monza. Of course, Monza it fits right into them. And, the Ferrari is going to do a little bit better. Even the Audi of Megazzi, should do a little bit better at the next 2 tracks. I'm really curious to see how Pride does over at Suzuka and Kyalami. In fact, as I think the BMW, one of the devs that races with us pretty often, George Gergo Panker, big fan of the BMW, and he says that how fast that thing has gotten as they've kind of really realized how to drive it, and they've tweaked some of the BOP within this simulation. And we can see he's not really losing anything to these Mercedes. Doing pretty well so far, but he's just losing a touch of pace in comparison. Whether that's the car or not, we will see. But here's a little bit of a move actually going on. DeGeorge's look to the outside of the other Ferrari there, the number 27 of Lou, not able to get it done at Parabolica. They're going to come on to lap 10, just a couple laps remaining, as they the camera can't decide where to go. He thought maybe he was going to the pit lane. He was getting so low, but there's the slipstream. He's going to go on the outside coming into T1, and will he be able to get the move done is the question. He's got the overlap there, but it doesn't look like he will keep it. Tries for the switchback, not quite enough. Coming out of turn 1, he gets just up to the back of him, and they've just, again, they're all over each other in these Ferraris. Losing just a touch of grip might cost him. We're going to see if he's going to be able to make a move coming into the second chicane here. He looks to the inside, has to brake a little bit early, and I think he's going to have to slot back in behind Lou there. DeGeorge's, he's only got a couple laps to make this happen as he gets a little squirrely coming out of that corner. Not able to quite hold down the grip. Couple more minutes left to do it, George. You think he can?
Well, I mean, that's a bit of a loaded question. 49 seconds on the race clock, and the pressure that's coming out here from the number 777 Ferrari, the car chasing down on board with him now. I mean, he's got the slipstream to work with. Carden Lou needs to be careful of where he goes defensive. He's going to put himself on to the inside. The 777 going to try and carry a little bit more speed, and I think Lou making another mistake out through here. He made one of these on the exit through turn 1. It didn't cost him there, but it might cost him here. He's going to go side by side now in the drag race down to the Parabolica, but it will still work out in Carden Lou's favor. Going to go around the outside again is George's. He tried this before. It didn't work out quite there. Maybe trying to get Lou to go later on the bakes and miss the inside apex and then maybe snap back and get it. He might have actually kind of got that right there at that point, because Lou, having to go ultra defensive, has then left open the inside line down to turn 1. This could be a setup though, because Lou on the previous exit had to go very defensive to get the inside line for the exit. Here he's going to have that, and he is going to come back across the line. We'll have the inside for the exit, and once again holds off. Race clock officially ticks down to 0. And this will be the final lap shootout for the drivers, all chasing themselves down. Will the 777 be able to get through Harry Spears here on the back end of the likes of Killian Ryan Meenan by about 2 car lengths? So for him, it doesn't quite look like there's going to be a pass up on the podium. Cody Pride maybe still going to, get something out here. A couple corners left to go if he does want something to happen, but Cormac looking quite stable, and it is the BMW to run exit out through Les Mode 2, as we will just pan through the grid order and give ourselves a bit of appreciation for this 20-minute sprint race down towards Ascari. They are going to come. Cormac in that number 12, still settled as can be, but this is that battle and track that we looked at. It's George's versus Lou. And that 777 is trying everything he can. Lou with a great defense. It is good. That's
Cody
the
Pride.
number 1 of Pride, who spun out through Ascari. Those are positions given up to the Ferraris, and that's not looking good. Tausch are going to take the win off camera as Daniel and the likes of Lou go side by side again inside
This
line
might be
to
the drag race he
Parabolica.
needs.
It could be, but that inside line through the Parabolica is going to still be there. Lou to the line, he will go, and they will finish nose to tail together as we go and look back at Cody Pride, who's going to go and throw a big slide over the line. And ironically, after losing positions down to 8, but Tauscher takes the win for Tauscher Racing in that number 16. He got absolutely no stream time, Mike.
No, he didn't. He didn't need it. He took off. He was 8 seconds ahead when we checked in on him earlier. He took off. Did not need the screen time. The victory was enough for Tauscher today. He was able to slap that in, get the win out here in race 1 by just a dominating margin, 9.039 seconds on Mr. Ryan Meenan, which is Cody's still out here throwing donuts, it looks like. He's a little disappointed with himself, I believe. He dropped down all the way to P8 after qualifying in P4. Magazi even got past him apparently there at the end. Yeah, Spears ended up P3. The Ryan Meenan brothers splitting the even positions there, 2 and 4 for the two of them. And this should bring us over to race 2 here shortly. Guys, we are going to go over to a bit of a standby screen, and we will be back here in a couple minutes with Suzuka for practice. And stay with us. We'll be back for race 2 here shortly. Well, George Smith, one heck of a race at Monza was had. And here we are, magically transported over to Japan at a very cloudy Suzuka here. A little warmer, though, 26°C out here in Japan at the Suzuka circuit. And currently watching Daniel Jose Georges put down a little bit of a lap, his first out lap on the cold tires at a 2:02.6. So he's going to be wanting to pick that up to be a little bit quicker, at least. Spears putting down that is quick, a 2-minute almost flat in that Mercedes. So race one, we obviously had that Mercedes domination. I don't think we're going to see quite as easy of a domination here in race 2 and 3 as we talked about, but I'm really curious to see how Tauscher of all people does, as he didn't have the Mercedes domination, he just dominated, period. Do you think he can keep it up for race 2, though, is the question?
I mean, it's one of those questions we have to see if he can bring that same heat out here. Completely different circuit. So again, 3 circuits here in this little trilogy. So that's cool. I mean, going out to Kyalami or Kyalami after this one, I just said it like you, Mike. I mean, I don't know what's happening to me today. The American takeover has begun, and yeah, I mean, for now it's here at Suzuka. Cardinalou, he had a nice battle out for defense in that previous race. Currently 6/10 behind Spears, but still some time to find out through the exit of Spoon here in free practice. Qualifying still to come, and the clouds, I mean, they've definitely turned a darker shade of grey as we've come over here to the wonderful Suzuka in Japan. It's like we used our magic flu powder. If you're a Harry Potter fan, shout out to you guys, Harry Potter fans, and if you're not Harry Potter fans, feel free to roast me as well. But we magically transported over here, so it felt like a good narrative to go with.
George, I'm gonna out myself here for a second. I will be starting as a DM with my friend a Harry Potter D&D game starting next Friday. So we're just gonna out myself right here on stream.
Yeah, you're gonna have to after this just hit me up with how we get involved with that, because I might be keen for a little bit of that, bit of a fan myself. On the outside of the sim racing world, gotta have your outside hobbies as well. I won't go into some of the other ones. They would most certainly out me and completely ruin my rep. Definitely not as hardcore as I'd like them to be. But, Cormac Ryan Meenan here in that number 12, coming out to the exit of the final chicane. And Suzuka is such a beautiful racetrack as well. I think the racetrack selection for the 3-part racing series for the Welcome Back to 2021 is going to just be, my pick of tracks that I would have, mixed up here. A bit of the Monza to start things off with, and then we've got Suzuka now, and Kyalami. It's really going to be a good one. So 5 minutes to go of this free practice session. I mean, weather-wise, Mike, you're the weatherman. Could it still rain in qualifying or the race, or are these clouds holding out?
So far, my weather app is telling me that it won't rain this weekend, but you never know here at Japan. If I'm not mistaken, I have a buddy that I play another game with here and there. We were playing said game yesterday evening. He lives out in Japan. Ooh, there goes Spears. 130R, man. It can be so deadly. You catch the curve in that corner, it will throw you.
That was a quick time. Look at this replay. We're going to get it. Watch the slapper coming out. Shed just loses the back end, some curb, and will bounce off and have to get himself back to the pit lane to repair out the damages. There's the 285. Still at the top of practice there, Mike. Sorry, continue with your continue with your story.
Yesterday, according to my friend, it was snowing where he lives. I don't know exactly where he's at in Japan, especially in relation to Suzuka, but it was snowing on him yesterday in the afternoon. So not out of the question for it to get nice and rainy here at Suzuka. We'll see if these guys are prepared for it, if it is. But so far, overcast, little bit toasty. 27C out on track, 23 ambient. Wind, it's out there a little bit, just kind of chilling down, chasing off the dirt and debris off the track a bit at 8 kmh. But I don't think it's going to get any rainy, George, so far, according to the app. But hey, who knows? We might see it. And if we do, it will make for some interesting racing. 20 minutes of racing in the rain, 20 minutes of racing in the dry is exciting enough. 20 minutes of racing in the rain, that could get pretty exciting. But so far, Spears is the top runner here in the practice session, still in the dry. Lou has gotten a little bit there, and there's it looks like
Killian.
Cormac. I think is that Cormac or no? That's Killian.
That's Killian.
Yeah,
Killian.
Killian right, out there pulling he's out there pulling a pride.
I mean, I like that. I mean, we saw the M6 lose it out in the previous race, and just there out through the exit of curve 2. Such a difficult, complex of corners for the start of a lap. Killian not quite managing to do that. Will come out in front of his brother there, who is trying to get a faster lap in, the number 12. But a definite showing of the Ferraris being a little bit stronger here in free practice. I mean, if anything, that mid-engine Ferrari needed... Tauscher is definitely dancing through the S curves, but as it stands, those Ferraris starting to look like they could be something else here. A couple of teams looking like they couldn't get the lorries packed in time to get over here to Suzuka. Only 10 cars here in free practice at the moment, Mike Jones. So luckily for us, we had a very efficient travel over, but for some of the teams, they're not going to be racking up the points here in the second round. Hopefully, they're still going to be setting themselves up for Kyalami. If anything, you need to try and get 2 out of the 3 races in. And we see Tauscher there making a nice little side-by-side move through the hairpin, but not going to make it stick on to the number 12. So the two of them not waiting for the race to get the race in. 20 minutes not enough for them. Going to use free practice to test the limits on the inside of Spoon. The number 16 forces Cormac. He does. He says, you know what? This is my line. And Cormac, it was almost like when my brother and I were younger, and I threw a stone at him, maybe a little bit too hard on reflection, but it was definitely not worth the tears that he put on there. Cormac maybe overreacting and jumping out the side. But Tauscher going to continue his chase down onto Killian, who was just out really doing an outlap here. So Killian looking pretty quick. Currently sitting in 6th place, but certainly keeping up with the pace of the cars in front of them. So going to be interesting to see what they do in quali. Quali, practice, completely different things. I'll say that 3 times because we've got 3 races coming up. But you really can't use free practice as an indicator all the time. I know in the previous race, it worked out well in Tauscher's favor. Dominant in free practice, then was dominant in quali and the race. This time around, though, Suzuka, different racing circuit. This is the one where you really can make overtakes and you can be brave. Monza was more about putting the pressure on Cormac, abandoning ship and leaving Tauscher to chase down Killian.
Yeah, I mean, this is Suzuka. I don't know the best way to put this. I want to say that Monza is an easier track to drive than Suzuka. It's a lot of just straights, hard on the brakes, make a corner, straight, hard on the brake, make a corner. Where here at Suzuka, you can force errors. You get up behind somebody through the Dagners, even through the, even pressuring them through the S's into the Dagners. A small mistake there can throw you. As we saw earlier with one of the Ryan Meenans coming through 130R, you hit that curb a little bit too wrong, and it will just throw you into that inside wall. You will go around. That was Cormac actually at 130R because Killian was the one who spun coming out of curve 2. I mean, the track is fast. It's not optimum yet, so not in that optimum grip situation. So it is a little looser than it would normally be, but this track can be deadly if you are not careful with it. And if all you're doing is staring at your mirror like Killian Ryan Meenan is doing right now in this practice session, you can make those mistakes and throw yourself. Tauscher is really showing some strength. They're diving into that final chicane, coming out onto the straight all over the back of that Side Max Motorworks car. I think that Tauscher's having a strong showing of force here in the practice session, maybe showing what he's going to try and do during the race as well, as we are transitioning over to that qualifying session. And broadcaster will bring us back pictures here as soon as these guys get situated, drop the jacks, and get out onto the track. If I'm not mistaken, I do see Harry Spears out with Killian Ryan Meenan directly behind him. Spears, George, was technically the fastest man in practice. We will see if that holds true over the next 10 minutes and change as these guys start out for their qualifying session. Fordzilla, 285 out first. The Ryan Meenan stacking up behind. And I do believe does the Ferrari of Prendergast out behind them. And I think that's going to be the story of this race. I want to see how the Ferraris and the Audis do against these Mercs and even the BMW. And we're going to find out.
You know what? It's the Fordzilla show at the moment. I mean, practice was his, and he's currently got the outlap to show us off. And hopefully for Harry Spears, it wasn't all a dress-up game in free practice, and then coming into the qualifying, he's got nothing underneath those sexy clothes. And that Fordzilla livery, certainly beautiful and outstanding indeed. The blue and orange standing out very nicely against that complementary silver. Very much a fan. The black rims as well. I feel like anything other than black rims on a race car is almost not okay, although I have seen some good color coordination out there. But this 285 Fordzilla Mercedes, the 2020 Evo, the new delivery from Kunos. What a beautiful beast it is. And to be honest, it's one of the cars that is growing on me. It's hard as a non-Mercedes fan in the Formula One world. You know, in the GT3 side, a little bit less biased when it comes to me driving it. It really is a fun car, and I love the lines. I love the way it looks. I think a lot of people have not really liked the grille coming out, but to me, it really just it's so beastly. And coming out through the final chicane, we are going to begin what is going to be our opening first lap, our hot lap on board with Harry Spears in that 285 down the start finish straight. He goes, and he will throw it in to curve 1 and 2. And of course, here it's all about just carrying momentum, finding those apexes, and a nice double apex coming out from Spears. Gets the exit apex as well, and then into the S curves. And just this track just gives you everything all at the same time. No time to breathe, and here it's a dance. Just carry speed and make sure that you hug these apexes. The top of the hill here, a little bit off camber, and a very good showing coming out from Harry Spears, getting the work done. And this is going to be a very clean lap. Getting out through sector 1, he then begins the chase down into the Degners. Some people try and have some overtakes through here, and that's very, very brave. Out through the exit of Degner 2, underneath the bridge, and the chase down towards the hairpin. A very, very neat lap indeed. Into the hairpin, you gear down to first and change that traction control up. Try and get as much power as you can as you make the run down towards Spoon. And this lovely right hand is all flat out coming through here. You're just carrying the speed and you're feeling it. And then onto the brakes for Spoon, and it can catch you off guard, using the apexes and the curves very nicely as Spears for Fordzilla. And this certainly has been a glorious lap for him. Onto the loud pedal he goes down the back stretch. And Mike Jones, this is certainly looking like a very, very competent lap coming down. Tauscher going to be trying to bring his best to the table as well. But for Spears, I feel like this is his one to get through. Into the final chicane he goes. 130R was an absolute breeze for him. Out through the final chicane and the final corner he goes. And the mad dash down to the line. The 285 now begins the chase down. We will get an update as he goes over the line, and it will be a 159.3.
Nice
disgusting
lap.
quali lap coming out from Harry Spears.
Yeah, I mean, you said it the entire lap, George. That was going to be the lap. Actually, Tauscher, we just saw, went back to the pit lane, so he must have had some problems on his hot lap. He does have about 5.5 minutes back out. He is back out of the pits. Actually, it looks like he actually had some technical issues, perhaps. He disconnected. He might have to try and get back into the server. maybe having some issues with his wheel computer or rig. So that's going to be unfortunate for Tauscher after winning the first race, not able to get in here and put down a qualifying lap quickly. Spears is going to have some extra time. He's even picked up a little bit more time so far. He's about a tenth and a half up. That's going to put him close to that 58 mark. And that is, I mean, a 59.3 is a pretty quick lap to begin with here at Suzuka, more or less getting down to a 58. George, I believe at the 12-hour Suzuka that we broadcasted months back, we saw, a couple of the cars get into 58s, but that was after a long qualifying session and a subsequent Super Pole. Prendergast in that Ferrari, Lou in the Ferrari as well. I'm happy to see them P2, P3. Prendergast is actually a little over a half a second up so far on his lap as well. So, he's got some time to gain, but Spears is just sprinting away. 0.3 up on his lap so far. He may flirt with that 58 marker. Looks like Pride just lost or just picked up some time as well, dropping down that lap. Still almost a second behind Spears, but he crossed the line at least within that P2 margin. He's not going to hold it for very much longer, though. Prendergast hard on the lights. He wants past, I believe that's the number 2 or the number 777.
Spears is going to get a 58. Like,
is
he
he?
100% is
He's
going to get a 58.
There it is. No, not quite.
59.019. But I mean, that lap was smooth coming out from Spears here.
It was.
Watching
Look at
it
Prendergast, though. He's 0.6 up as well, and he just lost some. I think Moriarty got a touch in the way. Unfortunately, Moriarty is on his own hot lap. He's got the availability to take the track with him. Moriarty picked up a little over a second. Prendergast still 6-7 up. He's got enough time to dip back to the pits, come out, make one more lap, top off the fuel tank, or rather not top it off, throw a few liters in, rather, and get back out there. Cormac, though, struggled a little bit here in the qualifying. Even Killian Ryan Meenan. And there's 2 cars that are within the 59 marker. None of the rest of them are. Tauscher is back in. Technical issues resolved. He is out on his out lap. I'm really curious to see how he does, but I'm just happy to see Prendergast in that Ferrari up there, even if Spears is dominating the qualifying session. I'm happy to see Prendergast up there. And, of course, Pride as well made it up into P3. So at least we have 3 different manufacturers on the podium so far, George, but 2.5 minutes left of qualifying. Anything can happen in these next 2 minutes.
I mean, that BMW M6 is impressive. I mean, you talked about it earlier, the Kunos devs just mentioning that they have tuned it up a little bit, and it is starting to become a little bit of a fan favorite for some. And it's certainly starting to impress. I mean, the fact that Cody Pride has got that himself up into P3, I know he's way off the time in comparison to Spears, but you have to understand that Spears is an absolute rocket ship at this point. I mean, Prendergast being up there, you mentioned it. It's great to see a mid-engined Ferrari there too, and a good little mixture of cars. Really, it's not almost the stacking that we see in where we get to call it a Cup Series. It's everybody mixed up, and unfortunately here, the sad part is that some of the drivers haven't been able to come through to this race event. So in the bigger picture, a lot of points to be picked up for everybody here. 10 drivers looking like they're going to take to the starting grid. That means that the points that you're getting here in race 2 are as many as you really want to get. And from here, it's all about putting the pressure on and keeping it there. For the front 3, it's going to be a mad dash out the line. But considering it's only 10 cars, there's not a lot of room for it to be chaos on someone else ruining your race, right? So you get a lot more focus coming in. It's not the bad side. It's a little bit more focused and a little bit more competitive. That's why a lot of esports series split things up into smaller grids to give you that head-to-head kind of feel.
Yeah, that's exactly what they do. And 10 cars, we obviously saw, the top 8 almost, within 5 seconds of each other. Besides for Tauscher, obviously, in the first race dominating it. But, the rest of the guys were in fights all race long. So we are currently watching Tauscher try to make his one qualifying lap he's going to have, getting a little bit sideways coming out of the Degners. He's really pushing. You can see hard on the hammers down into the hairpin coming out. He's going to try and get on the loud pedal quickly. Doesn't lose traction that time as he's approaching Spoon now. And of course, we saw Harry Spears have a nice and tidy lap on his first lap. He picked up a few more tenths after that, so perhaps he had a bit of a less tidy lap and a little bit faster. Tauscher making his way through Spoon, hitting those apexes nicely. Spoon is one of the more difficult corners to perfect out of the GT3 circuits, I think. It's such an oddly shaped corner. It's not even that it cuts back on itself more than it just quite literally is just shaped abnormally. I guess is the way I'm going to put it. You have to go in, out, in, and then catch it really quick on the gas pedal on the way out to get down the west straight into 130R, so you can pick up that speed. And here comes Tauscher, gonna come across the line. Where will he be is the question. We do not know yet. Cross the line, and it looks like an invalidated lap for Michael Tauscher. Gonna start in P10, George. So he was pushing for it. He knew he had one lap. He pushed. He tried to get up there. It costed him, and now he's gonna have to make his way through a bit of traffic before he can get back up into that P1 section. Rest of the cars out on track at the moment. Cody Pride is out, not up on his lap, about 2/10 down. In fact, Moriarty was up on his lap. He picked up a tad bit on his last lap, but then spun out on this one, returned back over to pits. So Pride and Magazi, the only two left out on track. They are not up at all. Pride has lost another 10th and a half out through Spoon. So we're going to see this session end. There it is. Session has ended. We're going to get back into the grid. So Harry Spears showed that domination in free practice, George. As you predicted, he held that through the qualifying session. I'm happy to state that Kieran Prendergast in that Ferrari did hold down P2, Cody Pride in P3, Cormac Ryan Meenan, P4, Carden Liu will come across in P5 in the Ferrari as well. Killian Ryan Meenan, of course, mirroring his brother in the old Mercedes in P6. Sean Moriarty, P7. Daniel Jose Georges, P8. Giorgio Magazzi, P9. And Michael Tauscher coming up in P10. Looking back over at the grid in comparison to how the finish happened at Monza, George, of course, Tauscher took the win. Killian Ryan Meenan in the 23 took P2, and then Spears and the Cormac Ryan Meenan. So, in a 10-car grid, really, these points could go anywhere, right? Tauscher has enough time to make up those positions. Spears finished P3. That means that if Spears takes P1 here and Tauscher finishes P3, depending on how the fastest laps went at Monza, because we haven't checked with that yet, they could be tied for the points going into Kyalami, but that still means Tauscher has to make up 7 positions in 20 minutes. I think he's capable of doing it. It's just the question of how difficult is it going to be, and can he do it cleanly, I think is the big thing.
Yeah, I mean, it is going to be a last to first challenge for Tauscher. For him, it's going to be about capitalizing on those battles that are going to take place in front of him. He needs to make sure that he doesn't get held up by any of the cars behind him. I think arguably is going to be quicker than a lot of the cars in front of him. I think we saw his pace coming out. The invalidated laps don't indicate what you need to get done, especially if you have technical difficulties with your car. 10 minutes of quali to try and get something done. You got to reconnect, and it's so much pressure. And yeah, for Tauscher, it's now using the breathing time to just set himself up for what's ahead. I think for Spears, I mean, his domination in that qualifying just goes to show that he's got a lot to prove for Fordzilla. And I think that's, again, one of those teams that's been around for a long time in sim racing. And for them, 2021, going to be a good season, a good driver lineup alongside the likes of Sidemax as well. So I'm looking forward to a lot of teams bringing the heat here in the season as 10 cars take to the grid. A smaller grid, but a more competitive grid with less to go wrong from other people. So you really get to bring your best racing. 2 minutes on the clock for the drivers to go. Race 2 is almost underway. And then we head out to Kyalami for the third 20-minute race. Suzuka, very cloudy and gray. Rain not yet predicted on our weather apps. Mike Jones has been doing a weather dance. He has now put on his clothes ahead of the race starts.
He was always wearing his mask, of course, here in the comms box. We are responsible. But the naked rain dance was a sight to behold. I hope that the heavens do open up. But for now, the rain apps say no.
Not so far, George. And while we have a moment, I just want to thank all of our sponsors and partners here at RCI, of course, Race Department and AK Informatica for helping us provide all of our servers to bring on these races to you guys. Sim Racing GP, one of the new hubs for sim racing in ACC, Assetto Corsa, and soon to be Race Room and Automobilista 2. Coming out of into an open beta here pretty soon, actually, in a few weeks. Visit simracinggp.com, and you can find tons of leagues on there if you're looking for a place to race. And just in case RCI doesn't have enough racing for you, as we race 6 nights a week, exclamation Discord in the chat will bring up the Discord link. You can come join us for some of these races. And of course, Speed Labs over by Raceface. George knows a lot about them. He commentates for that, as they are a South African community. And of course, Bruno Kadili and Jordan Shirat are the coaches for Speed Labs. You can jump over there, get some driver coaching yourself. And they do group sessions, individual sessions, both for rookies, pros, intermediates, whatever your skill level is, they will have something for you. Took a session with Jordan Shirat myself, and they are a great bunch of guys. I picked up about a second and a half on my time at Kyalami. Granted, I wasn't very good at it beforehand, but it was a nice session. I enjoyed Jordan.
You are 100% right on Speed Labs being amazing, but you know what else is amazing? Our drone pilot is giving us the go-ahead. He's begun the fly-through, and this gives us the indication that we're about to start our formation lap. So Harry Spears starts up front alongside Kieran Prendergast on the front row, Cody Pride and Cormac Ryan Meenan on the second row. Behind them, then Carden Liu and Killian Ryan Meenan start on the third row, and fifth and sixth, Sean Moriarty and Daniel Jose Georges will start in the fourth row. Giorgio Megazi and Michael Tauscher round out the 10 cars racing here in the second part of the Welcome to 2021 event for Racing Club International. I am George Smith, joined alongside Mike Jones, and of course, commentary couldn't be done without the beautiful camera work and complimentary stuff being done out by Stewie. So a big shout out to the crew involved, and looking forward to a good year of racing and broadcasting and commentary. Suzuka, one of the circuits that I love to watch. 20-minute sprint race coming up. And Mike Jones, this is the one.
I think so too, George. I think this is going to be the one. Suzuka is one of my favorite tracks to drive, one of my favorite tracks to watch, as you said. When I was picking the 3 tracks for this series, I'm not going to lie, I kind of went a little selfish, picked 3 tracks that I thoroughly enjoy broadcasting and commentating for. Monza, Suzuka, Kyalami, some of the 3 best. And of course, George, next month for our World Tour Championship, as well as just a one-off event, 24 hours at the Kyalami circuit will happen. Join the Discord, keep an eye on that in case you want to join, or if you're not already part of it, that's going to be one heck of an exciting day. But these guys warming up the tires, warming up the brakes, 20 minutes of racing here to do at Suzuka. By the way, guys, in case there's any French speakers in the chat, I forgot to mention this earlier, but we actually have a French broadcast going on. If anybody is curious to take a look, we have Hanny TV over on Twitch. I'll put a link in the chat. He's broadcasting our series in French, might start broadcasting some of our other races in French as well. Doing a little bit of a trial run. He's going to look at doing our World Tour Championship, starting with the 3 hours of Silverstone here in 2 weeks on the 23rd, as well as potentially our Friday championship upcoming, our flagship championship. Jump on over, give him some love if you're one of the French speakers. And,
I'm sad I wasn't invited to do some French broadcasting, to be honest.
Oh, George, well, you know what? We'll have to talk to Hanny, get you over to do some French broadcasts. I don't know if you'll be speaking German or Spanish or whatever on that broadcast, but... Now I'm just getting Jesse Lee vibes. So I saw Jesse Lee step into the box behind me for a minute and sit down just to keep an eye on us, make sure we were behaving. And I could feel the vibes kind of rubbing off on you, George. And here we are. as it happens.
He actually taught me my French. So I mean, to be honest, good vocal coaching. So you know, this is going to be a very interesting race indeed. Harry Spears here is going to be going very slowly due to the regulations out in the sim, of course, making sure to just keep the grid all bunched up. They'll go side by side very shortly, but 130R does not get taken at the speed. There we go. Side by side. I mean, with Jesse Lee here, what you could not say it far side by side as far as the eye could see, but it's not really that far unless it's.
We haven't been doing any maths yet, though, so you can hear him. I can hear him laughing in the background, even through my headphones. But yeah. Laughing. These guys side by side as we approach the start-finish line. Of course, Spears going to lead them off for race number 2 here for the Welcome to 2021 mini-series here at RCI TV. Guys, I hope you enjoyed the first race over at Monza. I'm going to enjoy the second race here at Suzuka, and then we will be in Kyalami for the third race all the way out in South Africa. Harry Spears is going to lead them across the line. Prendergast, Pride, and Ryan Meenan will wrap up the second row. They're approaching the start line now. We can see them coming down to the line. It's going to appear on screen here in just a moment. The green flag being ready to be waved, and we are going to go green here shortly. There it is. Green flag is waved. We have a good run off from Prendergast there in that Ferrari. In comparison, they're usually not quite as good on the hammer as that Mercedes is, but he does fall back into P2. Looking back at the background, Cormac, Ryan Meenan, as well as Pride side by side coming through.
Cormac's got a good line.
He does. He has the good line. He's going to get over in front of Pride, and he is going to shake that up into the S's. It is not an easy place to pass here through the S's. It's always an interesting little start of the race here. Who can get in front? Cormac gets it. We have Lou in front of Ryan, the other Ryan Mina back in the back, and of course Spears and Prendergast, P1, P2, holding those positions as they come through Dunlop and approach the Degners for the first time. Spears holding down the P1 as we're looking back on the wing, back to Prendergast, and you can see the rest of the 10 cars all still bunched up there in the background.
Perfect rolling start coming out there for Harry Spears. He timed that perfectly, had the inside line ahead of the likes of Kieran Prendergast. He now has to eat into the dirty air of the chase. He gets a little bit of benefit in the slipstream that he gets, but it's also so hard to keep the stability of these GT3 cars. This massive wing that you see of Harry Spears in his Fordzilla 285, that thing kicks up a lot of dirty air and the cars following behind. And when you get to a certain distance, the stability factor that you then have becomes very difficult. So right now, Harry Spears just absolutely showing the pace that he had at quali is what he's bringing to the race. Opening lap is not going to be anything short of amazing for him, as the cars behind him are already in tow. The number 10 here of Prendergast, already 8/10ths the last timing split update for the number 10 Ferrari. As we look back at Tauscher, already up. He started in last place. He's up into 7th. And the number 16 looking to get those points. We said it. He looked like he was an uncapped story, someone that had more to write in his journal. And not getting that qualifying lap in means that right now he's going to be on that chase, that last to first challenge. He's got Killian Ryan Meenan in front. And if there's going to be a challenge, this is going to be the challenge for him. Sidemax Motorsports going to be putting up the challenge. The number 23 will lead the number 16 into the yeses. And behind them, we'll see Cardin lose Ferrari in that dashing white and green livery, giving a little bit of a chase down on these two monsters in front.
Yeah, the two monsters in front, but not quite enough to get anything done on lap 1. Of course, again, through the S's, it is almost impossible to pass through those. You have to get your passes done starting into the Degners right here. Nobody risking it at the moment, as George talked about in the free practice sessions we were watching these guys race. The Degners, while you can pass there, it can be dangerous. There are very fast corners, and you use the entire track. Killian Ryan Mina look into the inside of DeGeorge's there, and he is going to get down there. Good move by him late on the brakes, but will he get the switchback is the question. Daniel Jose Georges is on the hammer early, gets down on the gas, coming into Spoon. Killian is going to have the inside line, but not always the line you need to have in some of these corners. Ooh, Daniel actually got I think he locked up the brakes slightly. That might even cost him from Tauscher. Tauscher going to move up into P6. Even DeGeorge loses 2 positions within 2 corners there. Tauscher making them up. That's only 3 more positions until he will tie Spears for the points. So within a lap and a half, if not a touch more, Tauscher's made up 4 positions. The problem is he's got, let's say the little bit. There it goes. Little bit of a bump. Tauscher manages to keep a hold of it. We're going to get a touch of a replay here. We do not catch how it's going to resolve itself yet, but here it is. Daniel Jose George is going to get just a little late on the break. We saw Tauscher break a little bit earlier. Didn't want to touch Killian Ryan Meenan. Tauscher forced wide, keeps it steady. Probably not any damage there. And as we dip back, we can see Tauscher did give that position back to Ryan Meenan after he kind of forced to cut the track.
Can we just talk about the save? That was just incredible stuff from Tauscher to be able to just get that little slap back and time it to go over the little runoff zone as well. Keeps himself in the running. Hopefully the rear aero not going to be affected. Of course, GT3 cars heavily dependent on that, especially at a circuit like Suzuka. These S's without any sort of downforce are not a place that you want to go. The 777 runs too wide out through Dunlop, and that's going to be Lou going past George's. And small little mistakes like that. Small mistakes like that, you lose out big time. Carden Lou, though, going to be smiling, sees Tauscher pulling away from him in front, but he's making up positions himself at the same time. So that's all okay. And the number 16 again
George.
tucked.
Oh, sorry, I was just saying, speaking of positions, look at Prendergast.
In 4th place, yeah, he's dropped down 2 places there. So down, the number 10 falls down at the running order. And with 14 minutes to go, that's not where you want to find yourself. But you do see the gap between himself and Pride is small. Cody Pride wants to find that podium. He was chasing down hard at Monza, lost control out through Ascari, and then treated us to a 360 show for the duration of the end of the race, as well as the closing warm down lap. So Michael Tauscher, though, this man on a mission. Killian Ryan Meenan not going to make this easy, and together they are making up time to the likes of Prendergast. So Prendergast, who has fallen off, he's also losing time to Pride, is then going to be consumed by the older Mercedes duo of Killian Ryan Meenan and the likes of Kieran Prendergast. So that's not a that's Michael Tauscher. So it's not a duo that you really want to have to defend against. I think you lose one position, you quite quickly lose another. I think most of the drivers have already realized that. So hard defense required.
Yeah, it's just a question of, can Tauscher make up those couple positions to keep himself within reach of that points lead? I mean, so far, of course, making up the 4 positions, but I think he can make up at least one more through the next 13 and a half minutes or so, but can he make it all the way up to P3 to make sure that he locks in the position? We don't know, Spears has kind of checked out. There he is on the bottom of your screen crossing. Cormac Ryan and Cody Pride crossing in front of the screen now. He's 4 seconds up, Spears is at this point, kind of looking like a mirror of Monza, but in the other direction. Spears making up the time. We're going to get a touch of a replay here. Look at the dive through Degner 1. Carden Lou goes for the move, and he gets the touch, gives the position back. He realized he messed up a bit there, but loses a couple positions as well. So Carden Lou going to drop back. Actually, looks like to Carden Lou's in the 27. Moriarty went for the dive, I believe that was, and so Lou did not lose any positions, but he did lose the time to the 777 and number 2. And these guys are going to be all over. Sorry, the number 34. The timing screen is not updated yet. Lose those positions, and we're going to see if he's able to hold on to that. Of course, everybody making the top 10 in this 20-minute race, but there's a bit of a look to the inside. 130 yards, not the place you want to pass. Very, very dangerous spot to pass. As we can see just how loose you can get even on a normal lap by yourself, more or less side by side. But watching Sean Moriarty cross the line for start of lap number 4. Spears still out in front. Cormac Ryan Meenan P2, Cody Pride P3, Prendergast in P4, nose to tail P2, 3, and 4 are. Prendergast, George, didn't have the best race at Monza. He ended up finishing P11. after he got touched a bit in turn 1 and then subsequently touched somebody else in turn 1 a couple laps later. So he's looking for at least getting into a podium this time. He's already lost 2 positions, but he is able to stay all over the back of Cormac and Cody here. And it's just the question of, can he make it past? He's looking in the Degner. Look at this coming through Dunlop corner. He's going to go for the outside in Degner 1. That is, again, dangerous move, but he does not able to force Cody Pride wide. Cody stays on the track nice and good and slots back in.
Yeah, I mean, this is just costing these 3 drivers up all the time to try and catch that 285 Fordzilla Mercedes up at the front. But for these 3, it's a great little battling ground for them, and it's going to certainly be interesting. Cormac has got to really watch those mirrors. He seems to be at a point where he is very cautious. He's defending the lines that he needs to defend against, and that is costing him a little bit of time to the cars behind. They're able to sit in that slip, and that M6 power coming out from Pride, he's able to use it, wind it up down the back straights. If he times the exit out through Spoon well, it works out from this time around. Is going to be a couple car lengths as they go into 130R, but a nice little 4-car train forming up. And with 10 minutes to go, this is really where you need to push. The tires, they've got everything to give grip-wise. It's all down to the pressure that you can get, all down to finding the braking zones and putting the pressure on the driver in front. I mean, one small mistake, we've seen drivers run wide. There goes those positions. If you make a mistake here, you lose out. Oh, look at this. I mean, Cormac is saying, no, you cannot use my slipstream. You cannot get past me. And Cody Pride just going to match him move for move, try and stay in that aero advantage. And a beautiful, beautiful showing of the different manufacturers and cars. I mean, not just different manufacturers, but different models of the manufacturers. Prendergast is holding on very, very nicely. The older series Mercedes doing a good job. And, of course, that M6 from Pride just holding up the sole representative and pretty much murdered out other than the accents on the mirrors. Black rims, black paint job. Definitely a fan.
Yeah, I'm a fan of the BMW. The pure black with a little bit of yellow highlights on it. I'm usually not a huge fan of just all black liveries. Personally, I like a little color, a little pop. Even if I'm not a fan of red on a Ferrari normally, because I think it's too
that's not even something.
Like
that's not even something that makes sense. Like in my mind of Mike Jones, like the very serious man. Like I'd expect a black car to be okay. Like I wouldn't expect you to be the color man. Jesse's my color man.
Have you seen my liveries, George?
No.
I'm gonna turn around here for a second. Jesse Lee, have you seen my liveries?
Oh yeah, they blind you.
Ask him about my mint wheels one time soon. It's minty enough that Jimmy Broadbent would be proud of it. But Kieran Prendergast here, he's got a little bit of color at least. And I am a fan of Cormac's car though. That kind of silver with the teal highlights on that old style of Merc. I'm a fan of that. But yeah, these guys still all nose to tail here. P2, P3, P4, P5. Spears has checked out. He's almost, in fact, gained more time this race than Tauscher gained in the Monza race. He's already 8 seconds up. Of course, Tauscher finished 9 seconds up in the Monza race. But he is just... Spears has this track dialed in. I'm almost wondering if Spears struggled at Monza because he was stuck behind somebody, or if he just is really good at Suzuka. He's got the setup dialed in and ready to go. We're going to find out at Kyalami, I think, is really what it is. If Spears did indeed have the pace to just nail Tauscher. Hopefully Tauscher will be able to put down a qualifying lap at Kyalami. Obviously struggled a bit with some technical issues here at Suzuka. Maybe had a little mechanical issue with his wheel. But hey, that's racing, George Smith. That causes all sorts of problems. But Tauscher still all over the back of Prendergast here has not been able to make up the time. And Prendergast all over the back of Pride. And, of course, Pride all over the back of Cormac, Ryan Meenan. As, these guys approaching the hairpin. And see if they can get any moves done. Not quite this lap. Lap 6 of about 13 or so, I would say. Or, sorry, not 13, of about 11 that these cars should be doing, give or take. approaching the end of the Spoon Corner out onto the West Straight and coming in through 130R. We will see if they're able to hold steady. I don't know where these guys are going to make their moves at, George Smith, but
Well, that time is. I mean, the time is
yeah.
coming down. They've been settled in. They've been doing the right thing. You just wait, follow in a train, and time that move. You see in the background, Tasha running very wide. That's going to be costly to him. He was putting some pressure onto Prendergast. That's gonna all fall away. But this number one of Pride on the back of Cormac Ryan Meaton, and that's the pressure that we've really seen evolving from the start of the race. It's held up the chase down onto Spears, but he was going to check out, I think, regardless. I mean, he was so quick. At this point in time, Cody Pride, he's definitely started to be able to write his own little story about the driver in front. That means that he's read exactly the lines that he needs to take to make those potential moves. He knows where he needs to brake. And with 5 minutes to go, this is really where you'd start to expect that pressure to come out.
Yeah, and I think it's really going to come down to how these guys do in the Degners. I think is really what it's going to come to, because if you can come out of Degner 2 and get a little loose, the guy behind you is going to have some trouble, staying behind you rather than in front of you coming into the hairpin. They're coming through Dunlop now. Here comes Degner number 1. Cormac, let's see if he can crest this apex nice and good. Bounces up off the curve perfectly. Degner 2 touches the inside apex out onto the rumble strip on the outside and gets the run out. Here he comes into the hairpin. Pride looks to the outside briefly, but just not quite enough. Cormac doing good on the brakes, but can he get the hammer down coming into the Spoon section of the track? Prendergast not able to get back up on the back of them at all. Pride and Cormac Ryan Meaton just nose to tail. Cody looks to the outside again there. Cormac doing just a really good job of forcing him to the outside. But Prendergast, though, look at that. I don't think he's going to be able to get the run through the West Straight, not in that mid-engine car versus that BMW. But I believe I saw George Smith take a step out for a second. And Jesse Lee, I know you get some yelling done. Look at this.
Yeah,
here they
go.
the 130R. Little bit of a touch. As Jesse Lee grabs George's microphone, and you picked the perfect time for it, Jesse Lee.
He wheeled me over here. He was desperately pointing. I was like, I don't like charades, George, but I get what he wants me to do. And wow, Tauscher very quickly there nearly had Pendergast and might have even had Pride, that car going really well. But look at this, Cormac Ryan Meaton trying to defend that position over Pride. Cody Pride attempting to take it down into turn 1. He gets defended by Ryan Meaton, and nothing of the sort happens as they have to go single file through the S's.
Yeah, again, we talked about this earlier, Jesse. I don't know if you were in the box at that point yet, but single file through the S's is pretty standard procedure here at Suzuka. It's really difficult to make the passes here unless you start side by side. Pretty much, there's only one line through there that's going to be quick, and it is pretty much single file all the way through. Oh, that is Prendergast getting a little loose in the background, and that might lose him to Tauscher. It will. Tauscher gets the hammer down in that Mercedes, and there is no denying that. Tauscher is getting past you. If you make that mistake, that Mercedes will pounce, and he did. Tauscher now all over the back of Pride, and that's a whole nother worry for him. Oh, nope, never mind. He's not on the back of him anymore. There he goes through the hairpin. Tauscher gets himself up into P3. That is exactly what he needed to do in this race. He needed to make up 7 positions to keep himself at the top of the leaderboard for the championship. Pride now all over the back. He's got to touch the brakes there. If you saw, I think I saw the brake lights highlight as Pride got all over the back of him. But there's Prendergast looking for it as well. He wants past Pride now. Tauscher taking off down the West Straight. P3 for him. Spears did not want to see that. That is not what Harry Spears needed. The PPR Esports BMW struggling a bit there. One mistake, Jesse Lee. We talked about this a lot at Monza here about 30 minutes ago, but one mistake can really cost you a lot here with this caliber of drivers in this race, and that is what happened. One small mistake from Pride. Tauscher picks up 2 positions even, and we're going to catch a bit of a replay of this, in fact. So here it is. Watch this at 130R. Oh, this is the older touch. Yeah, this was the bit of the older touch earlier So Stewie queuing up the replay from the bit that kind of touch that happened about a lap and a half ago. But yeah, Jesse Lee, I mean, pride's all over the back of Tauscher. I know you've been watching this race at least. Tauscher took off at Monza. He was almost 9 seconds ahead by the end of the race. So I don't think pride's going to get it here. I don't know about you, but it's going to be a little rough for him to catch up and pass him here in the next 2 laps.
Yeah, I did see that race at Monza as well, and I don't think that's going to happen. I think Tauscher's gone. If anything, I think Tauscher could even have second here. And talk about Prendergast, who we're focusing on here in the Ferrari. It's not that he's slower than any of these guys, not even by a long shot. It's just that in the parts of the track where you need a little extra grunt, he doesn't have it. And unfortunately, the BMWs and the Mercedes do. So you leave yourself defenseless and you get jumped, and it's just as simple as that. Meanwhile, Tauscher does not have any of those problems. In fact, it looks like his Mercedes has been tuned up and ready to go, as he is putting all of the pressure on Cormac Ryan Meenan.
Yeah, the problem here at this point, Jesse, is I believe George Smith might be gesturing to you in the background. Looks like he walked back in trying to get your attention. I'll let you deal with that here as I watch Tauscher and Cormac. The thing is, if Tauscher can get out ahead of this Ryan Meenan brother, that's going to do him all the points lead that he needs going into the South African race of Kyalami. Look at this weaving back and forth before we come into 130R. That is dangerous driving coming into 130R. Well held by the two of them, though, as we're going to see Harry Spears. Is this going to be the finish? It is. Just barely finishes the race. So here is the drag race to the finish, actually. This is going to be Ryan Meenan and Tauscher coming out of the last corner. Tauscher not going to be able to get that done. Ryan Meenan is going to finish P2, Tauscher P3, Pride, Prendergast, and Killian Ryan Meenan even in P6. That's Lou in 7th, Magazi in 8th, and Moriarty and Jorge, as I've now been corrected by Mr. Jesse Lee, finishes in P10. So that did not feel like it was 20 minutes. I don't know about you guys. I think George has got his microphone back. George, how much of that did you catch there at the end?
No, I mean, I went right down to the pit box onto pit road and just watched from the sidelines just how incredible the driving limits were being pushed by these drivers. And I mean, I think the stream broadcast it perfectly, but the sound of these guys pushing it to the absolute limits was incredible. I mean, race 2 done and dusted onto Kyalami for the final one. This is going to be the shootout we needed to see, and that was definitely the narrative that we needed, having Tauscher finishing up in 3rd. Cormac then making this a very much shootout orientated final race. Spears and Tauscher are going to go down to the line. In terms of, I mean, points wise, Mike, you're better with the updates when it comes to where they stand. I mean, I know that we'll get an update before we start the next race, but I mean, it should be a juicy final round, right?
It should be, because I don't have a look at the fastest laps quite yet for the 2. However, I believe, at least from the perspective of the finishing positions, of course, Tauscher and Spears should be tied for first position, as they both finished 1st and 3rd respectively in the 2 races. So we're going to see how this will shape up as we take our small break. George, Jesse, and I will navigate ourselves over to Kyalami race circuit down in South Africa. Of course, George's home circuit. Hopefully, George, you will be able to stick around for that race, as I understand it might be a little difficult for you to travel out there, oddly enough. But hey, guys, we will be back in about 5 to 10 minutes, probably a little sooner than that, with the race number 3 at Kyalami. We'll give a little bit of a points update and get into the final race of this little mini series. George Smith, back in South Africa on your home circuit here at Kyalami.
Indeed.
I think that's about it. I mean, we can call it a day there, right? Just, we're at Kyalami. All right, we're done. Oh, wait, no, we got 20 minutes more racing to do, don't we? My bad. Well, George Smith, I can hear Jesse Lee furiously writing on the whiteboard here in the background, calculating out our point standings.
I'm doing the math.
He's doing the math. So we should have that up here in a few minutes. But if I am doing my math correctly, I believe we should have Tauscher and Spears, of course, pretty much tied for P1. Jesse Lee is over there trying to figure out who ran the fastest laps, checking over the lap times just to see if anybody has squeaked out an advantage. And of course, the Ryan Meenan doing pretty well in the Suzuka race may end up putting him, up in the order as well. He finished P4 in race 1, P2 in race 2. Ryan Meenan dropped all the way to P6 at that Suzuka race, costing him quite a bit of points. So it's going to be an interesting one, but nothing quite as interesting as a race at Kyalami. Good weather here, no clouds in sight, wind at a minimum, and only 24C out on the track. A very nice day. If I'm not mistaken, George, quite a bit cooler than the 9 hours of Kyalami that you visited out in December, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that was a very cool race and a very cool event to be able to attend. Of course, very limited teams. This is very similar to what showed up. 12 cars were on the grid. They were the only ones that were really in the championship contenders. So for them, they made the move over. Of course, the lockdown, a very empty track. It was quite eerie to go there. When I was there in 2019, it was incredibly vibey, incredibly buzzy. This time around, thanks to esports and sim racing, really, we were able to go and attend, and there was probably maybe 20 of us that were there, and seated right above the pit box as we see Magazi struggling with Cheetah. That sausage curb can be oh so murderous. The anti-cut doesn't allow you to take too much out, but yeah, what a cool experience it still was during lockdown to go and see the GT3s up close and personal. The sound, the feeling, something that you can't quite describe over a voice explanation. It's something that you have to feel. But today, 11 cars on the grid for the final round, and it's been a two-part race so far, third part coming now. So a nice little easy mix recipe for good things to come. And Magazi here still holding down pole position in this Audi.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was always a very good car at the circuit. That and the Porsche were always the cars in the BOP range that you kind of kept your eye out if you were coming out to the circuit. So right now showing that the pace is there, 141.2. You can go quicker, and I think when the track goes from optimum, maybe in quali, we will see a little bit more pace coming out. But 3/10 quicker than Killian. Harry Spears sitting currently 4/10 off the pace here. Quali is different to the race. Practice is different to quali. I said I'd say it 3 times, and I'll live up to my promises. Karan Liu, he's also been a man that's been in some action, and for him, the Ferrari here certainly got some things to prove, and a good, decent car here. So I think it's going to be a good race for the third one.
I think so too. I'm really curious to see. Oh, okay. Well, there goes Lou. Looked like he had a bit of a mechanical issue there. Looked like his suspension broke, possibly. So glad that happened in practice. He kept it out of the wall and everything. So hopefully the team will be able to repair that before the qualifying session starts. But Lou did take the P1 position so far, and it's going to be really, really interesting. So we've talked a lot, George Smith, about the balance of these cars, right? At Monza, the Merc has just an obvious advantage. The BMW, not quite as much as the Merc, but it's about 95% of the way there. The Ferrari is going to struggle, so is the Audi. At Suzuka, that gap narrows quite significantly. Obviously we saw Spears dominate the race. I want to say that's more by his own personal pace than the rest of it. We saw Prendergast do pretty well A small mistake cost him a couple positions, but he was right all over the back of those guys all race long. And so far here at Kyalami, two guys that have not been racing within the top half of the grid the entire time are P1, P2 here in the free practice session. Looking at Carden Liu, for example, at the Monza race, he finishes. Oh, sorry, he did finish P5. I forgot that Prendergast had his issues. So Carden Liu did finish P5 at Monza, P7 at the Suzuka race, and Megazi finished P7 and P8 respectively. So far, these guys within a tenth of each other for P1 and P2 here in the free practice session. Jorge's and Tauscher have not set down a lap, though they are out on the track. Looking down at the timing screen here, George, everybody's kind of flirting with those low 41s for the most part. Of course, Prendergast that we're on now, he looks like he may actually take over the P1 spot, assuming he can keep it steady through Cheetah and the final corner. Nice held there, by the way. Barely clipping that curb enough to make sure that he stays out on track. He's going to come across the line. He's actually going to run close to a 40. Yeah, actually, there it is, a 40.944. So Prendergast in that Ferrari putting down a strong showing. Number 10 BP Racing Mobile. And a couple of these other guys about ready to put down a lap in that low 41 range as well. I think of all three races, this one's going to be the most competitive, and I am so excited to get this one going.
I think it's a track that not a lot of drivers always remember out there. I think it's a good track that everyone enjoys, but it's a track that can be unforgiving, along with most of the others that we've watched tonight. But certainly a lot of fun, and I think in a sprint race format, because of the shorter lap times, 140s, maybe 139s possible from some of the alien drivers in a quali session. You know, it's all possible. So I think it's a good balance. It's a good fun circuit. It's very narrow. Again, the overtaking opportunities come down to a lot of bravery, and you gotta be able to push the limits. And sometimes I think risking it for the biscuit is the name of the game.
Yeah, and that's really what it is. I mean, we've seen quite a bit of races at Kyalami, and that's kind of how it turns out, right? Like, you really got to throw down and try to get it down into Crowthorne. You know, Sunset is one of those really interesting ones that I find people try to make their passes on. It's that long sweeping right-hander that's turn 6. For those of you who don't know the corner name offhand, it's a very fast, deceptively fast corner when you're out on the track. And if you catch it ever so slightly wrong, somebody can get down on the side of you, on the outside of you, and get the run coming into Clubhouse. Of course, you also have the hairpins down on the back end. George, I'm not sure how to pronounce the hairpin corner. Turn 10, is it Liukop?
Liukop, yeah,
Liukop. Okay, so yeah,
Liukop,
so Liukop. You know, I mean, if you can get the good breakdown into Liukop and coming out of turn 11 down into Mineshaft, you can get a run and throw it down through Crocodile. This is what Harry Spears is actually doing at the moment, if I'm not mistaken, running through that section of the track. There is the Crocodile section. Then he's going to approach Cheetah. Of course, the most dangerous corner in racing is turn 15, Kyalami, the Cheetah corner. And you hit that sausage curb, you go into the wall, and you go into the wall hard, as it is a pretty quick corner. You're up in at least third gear, usually in most cars, through that corner. And then, of course, crossing the final corner of Ingwe onto the front straight. That's, again, you gotta get the run coming out of the final corner. See if you can get the hammer down coming through the kink into Crowthorne for turn 2, and get the pass done on the back end in turn 10 and 11. But George Smith, free practice has ended. Michael Tauscher did take over that P1 spot, but just barely. 9 thousandths of a second ahead of Prendergast. He's still out on a bit of a lap, has invalidated the current lap though, so he will not set another one. We will get into our 10 minutes of qualifying. We've got 2 Mercedes, 2 Ferraris taking up the front 2 rows of the practice session. Megazi did fall back to P5, but either way, 8 cars within a second out of the 10. And there it is, taking over 2 qualifying session. So we're going to take a look at a little bit of the Kyalami circuit as these guys get themselves out on track. And I do believe we are going to see Killian Ryan Meenan and Cormac Ryan Meenan out of the pits first. Cormac Ryan Meenan going to lead the pack out. As we will come back over to live pictures here in a moment and take a look. George, would you like to take us a little bit around Kyalami on the outlap here?
I mean, I'll take us around for a nice onboard when we do the first flying lap, because I think that's the, the more aggressive. We're up to pace, we're up to temperature. But I mean, in terms of the track replication here, I mean, having been here, they've really nailed it coming out. And we know that it's laser scan, but you really kind of get a sense for a lot of pride when you get to see your home circuits. And for a lot of these drivers here, I mean, it's a very fun circuit. You see a lot of room and space being given here to one another, making sure that they can get themselves into a position that I mean, I say that, but Killian and Cormac, I mean, brothers doing what brothers will do. You're not going to just let your brother through, but they let Tauscher through so that they could continue their little fights up to that lovely little hairpin vehicle. So blind coming up there. You don't get the sense of that from the helicam, but when you go onto the onboard, you'll see just how blind that uphill left-hander can be. But the two Mercedes boys, the Ryan Meenan brothers, continue their way out. And this circuit here, owned by Porsche, and sadly no Porsches here. I'll just give a little Porsche plug regardless, because myself, big Porsche fan. There are lots of Porsche sort of posters in the background. There's a big Porsche what do you call it, sort of entertainment zone viewing deck in the background. But we'll jump on board here with Michael Tauscher, the number 16, out on his first lap, out through the first corner there. That's known as the kink. Turn 2 then will be Crowthorne, down through the gearbox into first gear for the apex of Crowthorne. Now you make your way through the Yuxke sweep, and this is a part of the circuit that originally existed before as well. Of course, the rotation has changed around. Out through Barbecue, that left-hander, named after the area up to the north of it, Barbecue Downs. Then through the right-hander of Sunset. That's the corner that Mike talked about, that fast right-hander. Then you're onto the brakes again for the left-hander of Clubhouse, and you're wrestling all the time. The curbs, sometimes not your friends here, but this Mercedes at the moment looking like it's got ample time. Then the S's, as you then start the climb, the ascent up towards that blind left-hander. This is what I was talking about. You go blind, you see that curb, you get onto the brakes, the left-hander of Leocorp, and you make your way then down. So what goes up must come down, and it's then the run down to Mineshaft. This is a fast corner, the fastest corner on the circuit. Flat out, 5th gear goes Michael Tauscher in the number 16. Then onto the brakes once again for the right-hander of Crocodile. This final complex of corners can be so tricky. Carry as much speed as you can, and then you dance with Cheetah. Miss the anti-cut curb and carry it out perfectly executed from Michael Tauscher. Then the final corner, Ingwe, the left-hander, down to first gear goes Michael Tauscher. It does look quick indeed. Tauscher will go over the line, and he does a 140.8 to start. So that is quick.
It's quick, but it wasn't as quick as I expected. I wouldn't be surprised to see these guys take a little bit more off of that. Magazi and Cormac Ryan Meenan putting down the first laps. Cormac looks like he struggled a little bit on his first one. Magazi 6/10 back behind Tauscher. But it seems I am proven wrong, or the track is a little bit slower than I was expecting. But Tauscher 6/10 up so far. And George Smith, I don't know if you heard that while you were taking us back through our lap with Tauscher, but Jesse and I were furiously whispering at each other in front of his whiteboard. It is indeed confirmed that Tauscher and Spears have tied each other for the points lead for the first 2 laps. Cormac Ryan Meenan back in 3rd place, not too far back, but he's definitely going to have to get an excellent finish to fight for P1. He should hopefully be able to stay on the podium. Killian Ryan Meenan back and forth. Pride, Lou, Magazi, Prendergast, Jorge's, Moriarty will wrap out the top finishers here on the points lead. So lots of points battles should go into this third race. There are guys within 1, 2, 3 points of each other. The whole mid pack actually is within about 10 points. With the point system here at RCI is pretty close. Tauscher and Spears, of course, going to be fighting, and of course Spears is going to put down his first hot lap. This is what we're here to see. My producer in my ear is telling me this could be the P1 lap, and we will see it will not be. He lost quite a bit of time apparently there in the final sector, 5/10 back, and there's Tauscher. Just got upset by the Audi of Magazi, putting down a 40.8 flat in that Audi. Moriarty even getting pretty close there. So these guys, George, are not done. 4 minutes left in qualifying. They've got about 3 more laps they can do, and I would not be surprised to see these guys take a couple more tenths. Magazi's already 2 tenths up on his lap, just coming into sector 1. I do believe, actually, as I look over to the side, George has stepped out, and he's handing Jesse Lee his microphone, so Jesse's going to give me a thumbs up when he is all hooked up and ready to go. But yeah, so Jesse, as you're kind of getting hooked up here, Magazi putting down that excellent quick lap. Moriarty going to get a little loose there. Ooh, he's going to go off into the grass. Keep it off the track, though, as the cars are going to come up ahead of him. Cody Pride, I'm kind of curious to see how this BMW does here, Jesse. I believe I'm getting the thumbs up now that he is good to go. And Cody Pride, he's had a good showing so far in the races, but not able to get the finishes in. Really curious to see if he can get the finishes in the last race here. But Magazi so far, that P1.
Yeah, Magazi is absolutely throwing it down here. He's not exactly performed the best, but he is still in the mix. He could stand to gain some points positions here, and what a great way to end it. Well, if you're not going to win the whole thing, you might as well win the last race, and that's certainly helpful if you can start out front. Spears goes to 4th place there with a 41.181. It's the best he can do on that lap. He is going to get at least 2 more chances at it. Tauscher, though, under a single tenth of Magazi now. He could potentially play spoiler to Magazi's party here at the best track in South Africa, I think we could all agree upon.
One of the best tracks in the world, I would say, even. Kyalami is just a fantastic track for racing. But it's also a good hot lapping track, too. I really enjoy just watching these guys even do qualifying here at Kyalami. And that's not much to say, because I'm not much of a hot lapping fan personally. But even just watching these guys hot lap around Kyalami is always a blast to watch. By the way, Tauscher, I was kind of mentioning in the background that he was picking up a little bit of time. He has indeed lost it on this lap, so he's going to have to go for one more attempt.
Oh, dear.
But Spears, actually, as I look, Spears just lost his time as well. He was about a half tenth up, but unfortunately he will lose that as he's in Sector 3. Pride just picked up a couple positions, though. There he is, putting his lap on the board, about 6 tenths behind Magazi and P1. Magazi, he's consistent. I'm sitting here watching his Delta, Jesse. I don't know if you've been watching it. It is staying within a tenth. Like, he's not gaining time, but he's not losing it either. And that could be what he needs for this 20-minute race, is just keeping fast and consistent.
Well, if he can run a 40.8 for 10 consecutive laps, I think that will give him the win. So that is a very fair assessment. Harry Spears goes to 3rd at a 40. Missed that. I think it was a 40.5 or something like that.
40.956, in fact.
There you go. He is 1.5 tenths off of the pace, but keep in mind, Tauscher and Spears are racing each other for this mini series win right here. They don't really care so much about what's going on with first place. Magazi can't really do too much damage to him, but again, whichever one of these two takes it will likely be the winner.
I mean, the thing is, Jesse, you got to keep in mind bonus points for pole position. And
oh yeah, that's very
Tauscher,
true.
If you glance over to our left, Jesse, at the monitor,
Tauscher
3 tenths up, and he's approaching the end of his lap here. He may sneak out the pole position. Pole position's worth about 4 points here. The fastest lap worth some points as well. But Tauscher even picked up a little bit more coming through, coming into mine shaft now. Gonna dive into the crocodiles rather. But can he keep it steady coming into Cheetah? We can see the checkered flag there on that. That means the qualifying session has ended. This will be the final lap. Nice clip of the apex there coming
That was
through. Cheetah
beautiful.
hard on the brakes, and he's picking up more time, Jesse Lee. Look at that. 5/10 up as he comes into the corner, 4/10.5 as he's going to cross the line.
Oh.
And there it is, ladies and gentlemen. Michael Tauscher with a 40.470. That's going to put him handedly in the lead as we go into this race. 2 positions ahead of Spears as Spears finishes his lap, as well as just having that points lead. Lou going to come across the line, pick up just a touch if I'm not mistaken. But Prendergast, however, might be able to pick up quite a few positions. He's coming through Ingwe. Now let's see what happens when he crosses the line. He's 7/10 up on his lap. He's going to try and use all the track possible. Didn't quite get as much of the grip down as he wanted coming out of that corner, and he will settle for 5th place as Magazi is, again, he's just consistent. He's going to put down almost the exact same lap that he has put down all of qualifying. If he can, he's not going to be able to pick up 3/10 within the last couple corners here. Touches Cheetah just a little bit. That's going to lose him just a touch of speed as he gets that anti-cut curb. Luckily didn't hit it too much, but here he comes over across the line. This will be the final lap for qualifying, and it will not be any quicker. But I'm really excited to see Magazi out on the front row. Spears and Tauscher are, of course, the stories of this little mini series so far. They will find themselves in P1 and P3 right behind each other. So I don't know if it's better to be right behind each other or side by side, Jesse Lee. But that's going to be an interesting one for these two. Tauscher now ahead because of the pole position points, but can Spears get the fastest lap and get the position advantage and still win? Well, got about 20 minutes of racing to find out.
Yeah, Mike, I think it's personal preference, really, if you want to be beside somebody or behind them. If you asked me, I'd rather be behind the person. I want to see the guy or girl that I'm racing. I want to make sure that whatever they're doing, I can do something different in an attempt to gain an advantage. And I think it's prime real estate for Spears right now to be behind the man he has to beat. The pole position realistically doesn't do a whole much because the difference between first to second is more than 4 points. They came in tied. So if Spears beats Tauscher on the racetrack, it's still a one-on-one race, unless Tauscher gets the fastest lap of the race.
Yep.
That's unfortunate. That also, too, it doesn't matter.
That would tie him. That would tie them. If Spears finishes P1 and Tauscher gets fastest lap and finishes P2, it'll be tied. They'll both gain 65 points.
Well, I hope you devised a tiebreaker for this little mini series, Mike Jones.
We may need it.
Oh, man. That'd be a very 5-head move to have already thought of that. What are the odds? The welcome back event we promised in
This
2021.
is Night Owl style, man.
I know. We promised in 2021 that we would come back stronger, better, and with the same kind of racing that we had in 2020. And, well, we haven't disappointed. There may only be 10 cars taking the green flag for the startup weekend event, but they have put on quite a show. And coming into the final race, well, we have a virtual tie, and that is the most RCI way to start a year I have ever heard of. So just getting underway here, 2.5 minutes to the start of the race. Got to ask that all-important question. Who you going for? Who do you think wins the whole thing?
Man. Jesse Lee, me and George had this discussion about an hour ago while we were sitting on the grid for Suzuka. We decided not to make any predictions, but at this point, I feel like we need to. We've now got the winner for the championship on the line. God, I really think that this race is going to go to Tauscher. However, all I want to see for this race, regardless of what happens with Tauscher and Spears, because, of course, that's going to be our battle today, I want to see Magazi take a podium. That's what I want.
So I'm going to get all kinds of crazy on you. Magazi wins the race, Tauscher second, Spears has the fastest lap in third. And somebody tell me what that points total comes out to, because I don't know. But that's what I think happens here.
So doing the math on that, if Spears gains, so that's gonna be Spears would win it still, just barely. Actually, no, yeah. So even if Tauscher gains fastest lap and no, yeah. So if Tauscher was P3, had fastest lap and subsequently the points for pole position, if they finish P2, P3, Tauscher will win in P3 by having the fastest lap by 2 points. So it's gonna be close. It's gonna just close. Close is almost an understatement at this point. I mean, we're talking a dead tie going into the qualifying session. Tauscher up 4 points going into the race session. He's got the lead. Jesse Lee thinks that Magazi is going to do the upset here, take P1 away from both of these drivers. That may put him up into the P4 position on the overall standings. I think he's well out of reach of getting into a podium position. But of course, the Ryan Meenan brothers are also fighting for that podium position. Killian Ryan Meenan's 8 points behind Cormac, which is only a couple points, a couple positions difference. And that's where they're at the moment. P6, P8, couple points, positions difference. They struggled a little bit in the qualifying here, Jesse Lee. They've had some strong showings so far in this little series. 20 seconds to go before we will release these cars out of the grid. How do you think the Meenans are going to do?
Yeah, I was just going to talk about the Meenans. Cormac Ryan Meenan doing pretty much exactly what I expect him to do, and that's perform well. Or excuse me, Cormac, that is. Killian, I just did an 8-hour race talking about Cormac or Killian Ryan Meenan. He was part of the, spoiler alert, winning Side Max team, which you predicted, by the way, Mike Jones. So the fact that he's in this race immediately after...
Hang on. Is Tauscher having mechanical issues here, Jesse Lee?
Oh, no. Michael Tauscher has not moved off the grid.
Oh, there
he goes. He's got it fired
Got the car fired up.
He will be allowed to go back and take his spot, so as long as he does it before they're supposed to be officially gridded up. So this is not a problem. He does not have to start from the back. He is allowed to come back to his position.
But and so that said, someone has been teleported back to pit. That is Prendergast. He has been teleported back to pit. I did see him hit drive. I wonder if we had a bit of an issue on the start here. I'm actually gonna make a call here, Jesse Lee, and we're gonna call a little bit of a race restart due to a little bit of a bug.
Well, the voice of God has spoken. In this particular instance, his name is Mike Jones, and he has decided to restart, which I think is only fair for a sort of a preseason sort of race. I think that's more than fair to go ahead and give him another shot. Small grid anyway. Let him get ready to race. But back to what I was talking about with Killian, he put on a heck of a show at Imola earlier, and he was part of that winning team. So he left that race. He had one of his teammates get in the car. He came to RCI and started this little mini championship welcome back series. And I assume at some point at the conclusion of race 1 here at Monza, he learned that he had won up at Imola.
Did he now?
Yeah, what a weird sort of day that you're at a different racetrack, a different part of Italy, and you're told, hey, you want to race over here. That's incredible. What a day he's already had. So no matter how this finishes up for him, he is already a winner today. Cormac, though, doing a darn good job in that first race. He's got himself a boatload of points and is just looking to bolster that. Unfortunately, unless something dramatically happens here, which, by the way, other prediction, I think Spears bumps Tauscher out of the way and Spears takes the early lead.
You know, possibly. I think it's going to depend on Magazi. I think it's going to depend on how good of a launch Magazi gets. I think it depends on how much of a lead Migazi gets off the start. Tauscher has shown that he can launch off the start pretty well, of course, in that Mercedes. However, if the Audi is running a pretty low wing, he gets a good jump off the start, then it's going to be intense, right? I think so far in this race, we've only seen a couple minor touches so far in this little series we've done. I don't think Spears is going to punt Tauscher out of the way, at least not on lap 1. Though I think, assuming they're fighting side by side, which they should be, in the pretty much the full 20 minutes here, I'm going to imagine. I think that there is going to be contact. It's just a question of who. Cormac Ryan Meenan here is in the chat trying to discuss that Mishi is actually going to spin, in fact. So, that's just throwing it down right there. Cormac's already made that call. And that's Tauscher, by the way, Mishi Tauscher. So Cormac making the call there, Jesse Lee.
Wow. I
Also,
like how
Spears says he's rubbish at Kyalami, so that might play in.
I see. Well, he may be rubbish, but he qualified third. So how rubbish is he? And also, if you're
this team's too,
if you're Prendergast, Ryan Meenan, or Jorge or Lou or any of them, and the guy who outqualified you said he's bad, how does that make you feel? I don't know if I would have said that pre-race, Spears.
He's just, well, you know what he's trying to do? He's just trying to psych him out, I think.
That's it. Good call, Mike. Good call. That's what it is.
He's just trying to psych him. Oh, I'm bad at this track. You could just call it right now, and then he's gonna come up and just slap down the times coming through the lap. I would not be surprised.
That's exactly what it is.
These guys are, if I'm not mistaken, Tauscher, the Meenans, Spears, they all know each other, so I wouldn't be surprised to see these guys having a bit of a battle on track. Of course, we see the Ryan Meenans always side by side, knocking and bumping into each other. We first met them, Jesse Lee. We did, of course. Ryan Gill knew them. We first met them at Hungaroring for the Night Owl race, and that is basically what they did for 75 minutes. Was bump and bang into each other, and they have not stopped since here at RCI.
They're not afraid to face each other at the dinner table, are they? Are
Nope.
the Ryan Meenan brothers? They're fenders first, apologies later, if there are any apologies. I go back to that Hungary race in my mind all the time. That was the day we realized at that time we had 3 sets of siblings running in the series at the same time. That was absolutely ludicrous.
So it would seem that Prendergast this time did not get teleported back to pit, so that is a good sign. Tauscher did not have the issue firing his car this time either, so it would seem that issue has been solved.
Are they meaning to all set off one by one like that in that very photogenic way, or?
They are, in fact, if we really want to get down to the technical aspects of it, ACC does release them one by one. So that is partly done by the simulation, but also it's very photogenic. I'm a huge fan of it. It gives the drone camera something to do with it as well, and I think it's really nice. Obviously, Stewie being able to operate that drone for us to get those neat camera angles coming across. Of course, not a whole lot of time to get a drone camera in a 20-minute race. However, other than the start, it has been action-packed so far. Jesse, I know you missed the top of the Monza race, but you've been here pretty much the entire rest of the time, and you know it has just been bumper to bumper for 40 minutes of racing. We got 20 minutes left. I still don't know what's going to happen.
I told you what's going to happen. Spears is going to bump Tauscher out of the way.
Okay.
That's exactly what's going to happen. If that doesn't happen, I'm going to be disappointed. It's
Ladies
an
and
RCI...
gentlemen, Jesse Lee has been doing maths.
No, that doesn't involve math. That's just ESP, and I think that's going to happen. And by the way, I was here for the start of the Monza race. I was in chat complaining that nobody wrecked in T1 because that's what you're supposed to do at Monza. Nobody
yes,
did
that's
that.
right. Well, they wrecked in T1 a couple laps later, so
they did. The Ferrari
slightly
spun in front of the other Ferraris. That was rather unfortunate. I actually I was commentating on a different race. I was also commentating on the race that you guys were doing as well, because I found it humorous that the Ryan Meenans were here, and I was like, I did not Did not expect them to
Did
do
not
that.
expect it.
But Michael Tauscher qualified on pole, got the 4 bonus points. Of course, that doesn't really matter so much now. If
It
he
might.
were to have the fastest lap in the race, it will matter a great deal because he'll have a whole position safety over Spears. So the first mission of Spears, the man flashing Tauscher right there. I love the gamesmanship. I love that. Should be a fair fight between the two of them because they're in the equal equipment. That's right. Mike Jones cueing the Jaws music here, as I believe we're going. Is this Crocodile? I'll be honest.
Yeah,
I don't
that's
remember.
Crocodile. They're coming through now. They're going to approach Cheetah here in a moment as they stack up side by side. Tauscher doing his absolute best just to warm those
He's
brakes.
getting
He
in his head.
needs them. He needs them. He needs it. He needs that. He needs that psychic damage going back to Spears there. So the 16
They're playing
Mercedes.
Pokemon. I love it.
He's playing Pokemon. That's right. We're going to see them come across Ingwe. This is the slowest we are going to see these cars drive for about the next 22 minutes, give or take, as they are approaching the start-finish line. You can see the line going to appear in, and the green flag gets thrown down a little bit early just to surprise him. There's Magazi, a decent run coming out from him, but Tauscher is going to get about the same. Spears does instantly jump into a single file P3. They're going to just kind of cycle back.
They're wide.
Tauscher goes wide. There is Spears coming on the inside a bit. He's going to make it up to P2. Magazi had to get hard on the brakes because Tauscher missed the apex. That's going to put Spears up. He gets knocked off. There goes Magazi off the track, out through turn number 4, and that is going to put him back almost all the way to P6. Lou in the background got a DT drive-through from the stewards for a start procedure limitation error. Spears gonna pick it up to P2. Lou's gonna shuffle all the way back to the back, and that is unfortunate for Magazi. Such a strong showing in qualifying. Jesse Lee gets bumped off a track, and that's gonna put him all the way back to P7. He's gonna have to make it up, but Spears and Tauscher are away. Look at these guys battling in the background. This is Lou, Jorge, Pride, and Magazi for P7 overall. Going over almost 3 wide, going into the hairpin. Magazi on the outside there gets a little loose. He's going to even fall back another position. Magazi not having a good lap one. There is Lou.
He's
gets
wrecking.
a little. Lou, he drifted up the track a little too much, it looked like to me. Fortunately, did not take Magazi with him. Lou spins out. Magazi continues on. To be honest, Lou had that drive-through. Not a big deal for him in the swing of things, if we're being honest. You're not going to recover much in a 20-minute race, but there's Magazi diving into that final corner back in the back. I don't know if he got it. No, not quite, but they're going to drag race down into turn 1, Jesse. And, okay, that was a lap.
Yeah, I gotta say, Lou there with the drive-through on the start. That's unfortunate. More contact in the back of the pack. More contact. A spinning car. The Ferrari goes sideways. Jorge off into turn 1, into the dirt, and somehow Magazi survives. Vicious racing here in the final race out of 3, and absolute chaos has erupted in the back of the pack. Meanwhile, up the front, a 6/10 of a second lead. Tauscher over Spears. Spears has to get in front of Tauscher if he wants to win this whole thing.
Yeah, he has to get out, and he has to get out quick. And the problem is Tauscher is already putting down the numbers to get out in front. Tauscher still 6/10 up, but that's still within striking distance. Spears can still get within that slipstream range, and you can use the slipstream here at Kyalami. Multiple straights that you can use. Coming out of Ingwe, of course, through the kink into Crawthorne. You can use it coming into Mineshaft as well. And even on the straight coming out of turn 5 of Barbecue into Sunset, you can get a little bit of that slipstream action going on. But the question is, will he be able to make the pass? Tauscher has a strong showing so far with the defending. He's actually at Suzuka. He was on the attack, obviously, because he qualified back in P10, not able to put down a lap because of some other mechanical issues. But there goes the 777 into the pits. Jorge will have to go in, looks like potentially for damage. Lou, of course, has that drive-through. as well. But yeah, that's unfortunate for these guys. Tauscher, Spears out in front. That's a second gap there now, Jesse Lee. Tauscher's looking like he's running away with it so far. Here's Cormac and Killian, though, dancing all around each other. Cormac out in front, leading his brother Killian. It was a little bit of a tap, but that's exactly what we'd expect from these two. Here they are through barbecue. They're going to try and get the power down. Cormac able to stay ahead of his brother here, well, for the moment at least, Jesse Lee.
Well, here's the thing about racing your brother, and it's that if you do something that causes him to be angry, well, at least you already have his phone number whenever you apologize. And what are you gonna do? Be mad at your brother because he wrecked you? Well,
yeah, yes, but
exactly. Yeah, that is exactly what you're gonna do. But I also don't think that neither one of these two care. I don't know how many times these two have come to blows in the Night Owl season. They took each other out of a championship. They were racing each other so hard, and that's how much they are motivated to beat each other and how much they elevate each other's game. And while they have sometimes ran afoul of the rules in some of the races that we've done, they also accept that, and at least most of the time it's on each other. So you'll never see Cormac and Killian race anyone as hard as they race each other. I don't know if it's a sort of a brotherly thing or the fact that they care a little bit less. They're going to side by side. Killian going around the outside in the last corner. He's going to have to go wide. Will he have the position? No, he won't. It's going to be a drag race that's going to result in an absolutely nothing. He's going to try and sneak down the inside. That's a very dangerous move from Killian. Killian going the long way around. Can he get the position to hold tight? If he can, he might have it. He's still going to be side by side. Pride in the background, still side by side. Killian showing Cormac that he's right there. It's going to go switchback style. Can he hold on to it here? He might have an advantage, and he gets clear around the outside as Pride right up the back of Cormac now. Could he possibly get this position done? Looks to the inside, nothing doing. Big slide, Tokyo Drift, Matt Samuel style. Can't get it done and nearly wrecks the car. Saves it, does Cormac, and so ends his challenge. And back to 8th place goes Cormac. What a couple of corners.
Wow. See, that's that sunset. I talked about that a little bit as you and George were settling down with the microphones earlier. But sunset is one of those corners, man, where you can, if you get it wrong, you can get sideways like that. Cormac struggling for grip through there. Of course, we now have the Audi out in front of him. Magazi, who, of course, took P2 overall, shuffled back early due to an incident getting tapped up off the track. Cody Pride making his way up to P6. That should put him, hopefully within striking distance of Magazi there as well. But Killian Ryan Meenan, Jesse Lee, a 2.5 second gap already. He took off as soon as he got past Cormac. That said, my producer also mentioned to me as well that Spears has continued to lose time to Tauscher. He is now 1.749 seconds back, and he lost another 0.2 in the last timing sector as well. So Tauscher has checked out. So far, by the way, the best lap is going to Tauscher as well by about 1.5 tenths. Kieran Prendergast within striking distance of that fastest lap so far. But Tauscher will get the bonus points for fastest lap if it ends now, including the win, and that will be an easy lockup for him. At this point, Jesse Lee, knowing that Spears is a bit slower than him, it's just the question, can Tauscher keep it consistent? He has kept it consistent the past 2 races, but that kind of weariness starts getting in. This is only 60 minutes of racing, but this is 60 minutes of racing across 3 different tracks. These guys are used to racing a lot. As you said, Killian's been racing all day long. But when you're racing 3 different tracks across a day, mistakes can happen that normally wouldn't happen across a normal stint. And Tauscher, maybe he'll make one this time. Spears will be within distance if need be.
Yeah, Mike, I've done stuff like this where it's sort of what they call a marathon sprint event, where you're racing very short races. This was very prevalent in the Project Cars days, where you'd race a bunch of races for points. You'd have like a single day championship, and you'd go to a bunch of different tracks and stuff like that. And it's very tough because normally, you're practicing for a single race and you practice for it all week. But whenever you have to select a car and use it, as, oh no, we're going to see a replay of exactly what happens here. I imagine somebody gets turned on.
Side by side cheetah.
Oh, yeah.
That's what happened.
You absolutely nailed it, Mike. You just can't do it. And we keep seeing it. And any sort of contact there on a flat part of the track like that, medium speed, you are going to go around. Cormac trying to come back here on Pride and try to salvage a little bit of something here. Right onto the back of him. Nothing doing right yet. But like I was saying, usually you're practicing for one race for a week, or in some of these guys' cases, a couple of races a week. But to do a bunch of races that matter one after another, when you have to select your car, that car may not be good at all those tracks. You don't know. And you're never going to get the same result as if you had all that time to practice, and it creates some very interesting situations. And speaking of very interesting situations, Prendergast has caught Spears for second place, so the challenge for the Cup is becoming even more bleak if you are Harry Spears for the Fordzilla 285, because, well, now you have Prendergast Ferrari in your rearview mirror, and, well, it doesn't look like he's going to be there for long.
It does not. The halfway mark comes across. You can hear race controller state that out. 10 minutes left in this race here. Spears struggling a little bit for pace here at Kyalami Circuit. And of course, he did say that this is one of his weaker tracks. Tauscher has checked out, 2.179 seconds ahead. Not quite as checked out as he was at Monza, and not quite as checked out as Spears was at Suzuka, but a lead nonetheless. They're still within distance of each other. Again, a mistake from Tauscher could mean a lot. Jesse Lee, I want to point out something that's upcoming, in fact, on a kind of a note that you said. So being able to pick your cars around a track, I don't know, Jesse Lee, if you've seen the announcement for the new Night Owl Championship. Have you?
I have, yeah.
The new Night Owl Championship.
You're evil, just so we're clear.
I am having fun, Jesse Lee.
Full disclosure, folks. Why we wind down the final 9 minutes of the Welcome Back event. When Mike Jones, before the holiday last year, said, "I'm working on something for Night Owl," and he went, he, I went, "There's no way that's good."
So for those of you who are in the chat that might want to participate in the Night Owl Championship, I'm going to be honest, it's probably our most competitive championship. Like, however much our Friday championship is our flagship championship. Excellent driving, excellent racing, excellent stream for that championship. The Night Owl Championship, for some reason, just breeds competitiveness. These guys going very wide out of the crocodiles there, but keeping it on the track so far. The Night Owl Championship will not have tracks announced until the cars are locked in. All 6 races, besides for the first race, obviously, because people need to practice for the first race. So we'll let them do that. The rest of the 5 rounds will not have tracks announced until the cars are locked in. So if you want a little bit of a wild card season, we're gonna take signups for that at the beginning of February. ! Discord in the chat. You can come join that. Right now, we're taking signups for our Friday championship. Qualifying for that championship will handle at the end of this month, I believe on the 29th, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's on the 22nd and 29th. Jump into Discord and do that. And of course, our GT4 Thursday championship will start up. Take signups for that beginning of February as well. And our Monday championship would be a Ferrari Cup championship, Ferrari Evo championship. Taking signups now as well.
I will be watching the Ferrari Cup simply because, well, I've wanted a Ferrari Cup for a while. Look at that, going completely off the track is Cormac.
Both of them.
Trying to get every bit of road that he's allowed. I'm not even sure he's allowed that, but he took it anyway. He is, if I'm Cormac right now, I'm a little hot, after what happened there. Sort of a self-inflicted injury, but still, that doesn't make you less angry. So he is driving the wheels off that. Speaking of driving the wheels off of it, Prendergast still trying to get around Spears. I thought this would have been done and dusted by now. Not quite. Good defensive driving by Harry Spears.
Yeah, he ain't giving it up. He do not want that BP Racing 10 Ferrari to get past him. The Ferrari has not finished on the podium so far during this little series. And looks like Prendergast might get that this time. Moriarty, of course, back behind him as well in P4. So they've got that podium position locked up, more or less. 6.5 minutes left in this race. As Cormac still all over the back of Pride. These guys, let's look back at the whiteboard here, Jesse Lee. Pride is pretty far behind Cormac on the points board. But Killian, however, if Cormac loses another position, something happens.
Oh,
Ooh, not quite though. Not quite able to get that nose in there. He got there for
here,
a second, but
I
not
thought
quite.
he was going for it.
He ain't gonna do that again. Not after the incident earlier in the race.
Flashing the light.
But he wants it. I think he's faster than Pride, but getting around somebody and being faster than them are two different things. But yeah, so Cormac, I think Cormac's still ahead of Killian in the points. By the way, it's a tough call. It's close, but he can't lose another position, so he needs to keep it out on track and not make any more mistakes.
I can tell you one thing though. I don't know if Cormac's thinking too much about that. I think he's already wrote a letter and he's about to lick the stamp.
Will he be the mailman of this race, Jesse Lee?
I like the reference, but we'll have to call Tom Roberts for the mailman. But
so he's going to lick the stamp and hand it to Tom.
I believe so, because the way that Cormac in that first sector, the way he is running up on this BMW, I'm not too sure he is going to stay behind him. He's already flashed him a few times, like, "Hey man, cut me some slack here." Of course, Pride's not going to cut him some slack, nor is he, nor is he supposed to. It's good, hard, close racing here, but I think genuinely, Cormac's going to run out of patience here and just send it here. I think more than anything, just for Pride, just to get that position back. Not missing anything out front, by the way. Tauscher has nearly a 4-second lead on Spears. Prendergast still right behind Spears, though, but still unable to make nearly 4 minutes left to go in the 2021 Welcome Back Series. Glad to be back with you. Glad to be back at RCI with Mike Jones and Stewie in the box. And also, George said that he had to go on such short notice, but man, is it glad. I missed you guys over holiday break. I really did.
I did too, Jesse Lee. I've been looking forward to this race, being able to cast with George. It's been a while since I've casted with George. And of course, being able to sit here and cast with you. And of course, me and you going to be joining the box together for a full 3 hours here in a couple weeks for our first round of the World Tour Championship.
Oh, I'm
3 hours,
dude.
3 hours.
I can't tell you.
Yep.
I'm so hyped. I'm like, I don't get hyped for anything. Like, I didn't get hyped for Cyberpunk. Okay, to tell you how much I don't get hyped, I'm hyped for the World Tour. I have already called it the World Championship, and whoever wins that is the Endurance World Championship with sim racing. That's how big it is, and that's how big I think it is. So,
and the names in it are looking that big too.
Oh,
I think, what, Jesse Lee,
ridiculous.
I actually, this is ringing a bell. I've had a night of not much sleep, but I believe we talked about this about 10 hours ago when this. Ooh, look at Cormac get all out of shape there.
I know.
He is getting sideways. I believe we talked about this with the teams. The teams looking for this World Tour Championship and our invitational split it's just going to be so competitive.
The word that I used is stupid. The teams, the names, the people, it's stupid. Like, it's just really so many people. And it's a lot of work that you guys did. I didn't do anything, but it's a lot of work that you guys did at RCI.
Jesse shows up and yells into a microphone.
Yeah, it's the one thing I'm good at. But you know what? It's a who's who of sim racing. A lot of times, Pride here looking like he's going to surrender the position finally to Cormac Ryan Meenan. In fact, does. Excellently placed in the flashing of the lights. I don't think he's too happy about that move.
Let's watch it again. So here we go. They come in through turn 2. There's turn 3. They're going to come into barbecue here. Cormac goes for the dive. Little bit of a bump. Yeah, I don't think he's happy about it, but there's the stamp licked, sent, and delivered, Jesse Lee.
Yeah, you watch enough Cormac or just any Ryan Meenan races, you kind of feel it coming sometimes. And I felt like that one was coming. Speaking of which, look at Moriarty, who has worked his way into this picture. So Spears getting passed here by Prendergast could lead to him losing more than just the podium, or excuse me, just the second step. He could lose the entire podium here if the move doesn't come off.
He could. I mean, that's the thing, right? Spears is doing a good job defending so far against Prendergast, but Moriarty has made up the time. There's the leader on the final lap, so this is going to be the last lap of this race. We're going to do the same thing we did at Suzuka and finish just over the overtime, not get too much of an extra lap here at Kyalami. So 1 minute and 20
I thought
left
he was going for it.
remaining on this lap. Not quite enough for the dive there. Coming through the Just K sweep. Not quite enough of a run. The Merc does get the run off the corner, coming in through Barbecue here, where we saw Cormac send it on Pride last time. Nothing happening so far. This is going to be Prendergast in out behind Spears with Moriarty tailing. Here they come, the Ferrari hard onto the hammer into Sunset. Not quite enough to catch up, but here they come through Clubhouse, and that's going to be Spears taking a little bit of a wide line there. In fact, we're going to take a look from Moriarty's perspective as they come through the S's. Nice camera work from Stewie here. I really like this camera watching these guys in front. Here they come into a Liu Cop. Going to get into the hairpin. Who's going to get on the hair? Oh, look at it. There it is. There's the tap. Spears cuts back, and there's the tap from Prendergast. Moriarty up into P3. Spears going to lose all of it. There's going to be Prendergast stopping, making sure that Spears can get back past. And here is Killian Ryan Meenan taking advantage of that as well. You know, Spears got the cut back there. Hard to see from our angle to see if, that happened to be Spears or Prendergast's fault. Not our place as commentators to make that call. Checkered but bit of a racing incident there. And there's the checkered flag. Tauscher is going to come across the start-finish line. Moriarty in that number 2 Ferrari going to come across in P2. And here's a little bit of a battle as well. And we're gonna catch this all the way to the end. Here they come in to the final quarter of Ingwe, and they're going to go side by side coming out of the corner. Able to get the run. There it is. It's going to be a drag race to the line, and Pride is going to get him. He's got the nose out. Finishes 24 thousandths of a second ahead of Cormac Ryan Meenan. Here's a replay of that incident, by the way, Jesse Lee. Why don't you take us through it?
Yeah, just absolutely spun him there. Spears got pounced on there, and that's unfortunate, but he did let him go back through, but it's of little meaning to it. Spears did end up getting third still. Killian with fourth, and Prendergast would settle for fifth. And then that move on Cormac at the line, absolutely ridiculous drag race. Folks, welcome to 2021. Welcome to RCI. We hope that you enjoy your stay. Like and subscribe for more ridiculous drags to the line. Michael Tauscher wins the Welcome Back series, and in grand fashion too. Absolutely ridiculous. I'm starting to like 2021.
Whew. I am too, Jesse Lee. We have fantastic racing already. You guys had a fantastic stream. You, Nick Setnick, quite a few of us dropping in and out of the stream. Me, Fabian Ryan, I believe Seb Brunier even jumped on the stream for a little while and joined you guys for the 8 hours of IMLA. Of course, our team's racing in RRC's Endurance Championship. A little bit of a pre-season race today. 8 hours of IMLA. We finished P2. Fabian, Mikhail Sundstrom, and Ryan did. And our sister team, the Triple R, finished in P3, and if I'm not mistaken, Tom Roberts and Sebastian Bernier finished back in P12. Is that right, Jesse Lee?
They finished 13. 13. I was actually it was a source of pride for RCI when Ishmael Lebret came to the chat and was claiming an RCI double podium. So that was incredibly heartwarming. Mia Swinson did a great job in that, and of course, like you said, Sebastian Bernier and Tom Roberts finished in 13th. So really good day. All of our teams in the top half, and 2 of them on the podium. What a day for sim racing. What a day for RCI. And, well, I think it's going to be our year.
I do as well, Jesse Lee. And, of course, 2 weeks until that 3 Hours of Silverstone World Tour Championship starts off. Us 3 in the box here will be bringing you all the action. Stewie will be broadcasting that. Me and Jesse Lee bringing the commentary all. We're going to be yelling in the microphones. Oh, we're gonna be. It's gonna be spicy. I hope you guys make sure you bring some good speakers out. You're gonna want some good quality speakers that you can make sure you turn the volume up and down on. as me and Jesse get excited. And of course, Ryan
Accurate.
Gill will join us. I believe Ryan Gill's going to pit lane report for us for that race, Jesse Lee.
Is he really?
We'll have some in and out of Ryan Gill. And of course, guys, as noted, Friday Championship taking signups at the moment. Thursday and Night Owl Championship is going to be taking signups here within the next couple weeks. Let's get an exclamation point Discord in the chat, and we will get you guys in. Thank you for that, Jesse Lee. And come on, join us on Discord. Come in and sign up for some of these races. This was a fantastic one. You can come in and see the results for all 5 splits. This is only one split that we were running, by the way. There's about this one was a little lighter, our pro split in drivers, but we have about another 80 drivers or so racing across other splits, if not a little bit more than that. It's maybe about 110 drivers or so. We've got drivers of all caliber,
Absolutely
pro,
ridiculous.
silver, AM, and rookie. Of course, follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Come check us out. Shawnee, of course, will give you all the information across the socials as we're doing races. Check out our partners, Race Department AK Informatica. Everybody knows who Race Department is. Of course, RaceDepartment.com, helping us bring you guys these races. Speed Labs over in RaceFace, the coaching community of South Africa. Fantastic bunch of guys. You can get a discount code inside of our Discord to go get some driver coaching. No matter if you're an esports alien yourself looking to pick up a couple tips, or a rookie driver starting out, they've got everything for you, as well as some replay reviews. Sim Racing GP, your hub for ACC, Assetto Corsa, and soon to be Racestream and Automobilista 2 sim racing communities. You can check them out as well. Find all that information up on our Discord. And Jesse Lee, George Smith has taken off already, obviously, but I appreciate you jumping in for the Kyalami race here, helping us out. And it's been a fantastic race. I have much enjoyed having you here and being back, as you said, for 2021. Any final thoughts?
Well, I just want to thank everybody who participated, watched, and everybody here in the booth with us. George, Mike Jones, Stewie, everybody that makes this thing run. And I would not want to be any other place than here at RCI in 2021. And I think you all should be here as well. Please, 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 no matter what your skill level is, get involved. We have a split and a race for you.
As Jesse said, that is exactly what you will find here at RCI. Thanks for joining us at RCI TV. Please feel free to give a like, give a follow, subscribe, and we will be back with you guys. Got a little bit of a light month this particular month as we kind of take a little bit of holiday break. But again, we'll be back on the 23rd for our 3 hours of Silverstone to kick off our World Tour Championship. We will see you guys then. From myself here, Mike Jones, from Jesse Lee, from Stewie, bringing you the broadcast cameras, from George Smith earlier in the day, and all the other staff here at RCI. We hope you have a great rest of your weekend.